Alrighty, folks, welcome on into the Central Committee stream with your host, Mike from PA. We are live. Mike, you should watch this vid. Which vid is that? China is not a socialist utopia? Bro. From Polymatter. But at what cost if it was a video? I just want to say this. At no point has anyone, including myself, let alone Xi Jinping, said that China is a socialist utopia. I mean, that's the thing that's crazy. That's the thing that's crazy, is who's saying this? I mean, it's like, the thing is, this isn't even rage bait, because this is actually something that morons say quite a bit. And it's like, no one said that it is currently a socialist utopia. That's the whole point. I would be concerned if they did. It's like a country that I mean, one of the things is, it's like, if you read what Xi Jinping says, at no point, none does he say this. He says, we have these goals. We're going to accomplish these goals in the next 5 years. And it's part of our plan to achieve this goal, which we're going to achieve by this date. That's the way they talk. Only Americans talk like this, which is in these glowing, uncertain terms that are open to subjective interpretation. That's how bitch-made capitalists talk to lie to you. And like, the question that you have to ask yourself about China is, first of all, is the lives of their people, are the lives of their people improving measurably? The answer is yes. Is China taking some of the crises that are facing the world seriously? Yes or no? Yes, they are. Is China contributing on net to the worsening of geopolitical conditions? No. Like, you can just go down the list of problems in the world, and China is never the cause or the primary cause. It just isn't. That is what we are arguing about. That's what we're talking about. Because China exists out there, and the United States is trying to put us into a Cold War with China and have us get into a possible war with China. That's why this propaganda gets made. This is definitely something that we should watch. A critique of Western Marxism, without a doubt. Never subbed, never donated, stolen lifetime, never survived. Yeah, so true. So true. I mean, I don't even need to press play to laugh at how dumb this video is. But I might do it just to, I might just react to it so we can publish a reaction and go, this video sucks. This video fucking sucks. I don't even need to see what they say. State capitalism would be a step forward as compared to the present state of affairs in the Soviet Republic. In approximately 6 months' time, state capitalism became established in our republic. This will be a great success and sure guarantee within a year, socialism will have gained a permanently firm hold and become invincible in this country. Unfortunately, we can look back on that and say that is not necessarily the case, that socialism and is a global struggle. Just like the struggle against monarchical feudalism was a global struggle, right? When the French overthrew their king, did all the other monarchies of Europe say, that's legitimate, French people are allowed to make that decision? No, they fucking invaded. Trump, I would have won Vietnam very quickly. Incredible. Hey, time card, what's up, brother? Alan Dershowitz and Mark Levin talked about Hassan. Oh, it's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time. I'm also going to do another video. I want to do another video on ContraPoints, because ContraPoints is a fucking joke. I was going to do it yesterday, but I forgot. Dersh comes out as a Republican. Jeffrey Epstein's lawyer announces he feels safer as a Republican. Yeah, I saw this. I do think that, here's kind of how I feel about nuclear weapons. If Donald Trump uses a nuclear weapon, then I think it's reasonable to say that every human being on the planet should consider him an enemy. And honestly, I don't know that America should be allowed to continue to exist. Oh, you forgot about ContraPoints? Yeah, who gives a shit? But it's good for my algo. Making fun of ContraPoints is like something people want to see. I did it before. I don't like to just force hate videos, but when they're appropriate, right? When they're appropriate. I've been thinking about the Vosh stuff, right? Which is like, obviously, the guy is fucking weird. Obviously, he has the stink of destiny on him. Obviously, he's done a whole bunch of actually abusive and weird shit towards his community. And he's, as far as I know, he's never really apologized about any of it. But it doesn't necessarily mean that people that got swept into his algorithm because they watched a video about his, one of his anti-Trump slop videos, it doesn't mean that all of his audience are idiots. And I'm trying to figure out a way of like maybe subtly shifting those people away from that space, because it is, and I feel like Hassan's strategy is a good strategy. We need to definitely go down that path. Get me out of the Vosh pipeline. Yeah, I wonder why they're constantly being fed in the Vosh pipeline. It's because Vosh puts himself into Hassan's pipeline. Because of course he does. It's smart. AOC asked about Sakat again. I mean, it's very clear that she doesn't like him. They had some disagreements. It is what it is. I don't feel like my general feeling is I think it's a mistake. I haven't really talked about that race. And I think I'm making a mistake, to be honest with you, because I feel like one of the things that we need to do in the online left space is reward politicians that are rewarding us. Like, I think there does need to be an institutional push to reward politicians that are going to take advantage of the left media space. AOC, I don't know why she's scared of doing it. And it kind of blows my fucking mind. ContraPoints has 24,000 paid subs on Patreon. Still? His campaign released a video with Hassan. Yeah, smart. Mukbang with Hassan. Smart. Just watch your YouTube video where you watch Zoran's 100-day address. Thank you for supporting Hong. I'm from Milwaukee and would hate for the governor to be anyone else. Well, I'm trying, man. I do my best. AOCIA is a burden on our movement. The delusion of that statement is truly insane. The delusion of that statement is truly insane. I have my criticisms of AOC, but they are comradely criticisms. I think she has tremendous potential. I think she is traumatized from dumb shit that doesn't matter. And we need to do our part to both reach out to her, because this is our opportunity. And if we're not part of AOC's inner circle, that's bad. And as far as I think that part of the problem is the internet has trained people to use hyperbolic language so much that they are now kind of in their brain becoming shrill and overwrought to such an extent that it gets annoying. And I am, by the way, I'm very strident. You're talking to me. If I'm telling you to calm down, you're way over the fucking top, okay? If Mike from PA is looking at you and going, you're over the top, you're fucking over the top, okay? I think I'm over the top. I think I'm too much. If I'm telling you you're too much, you're fucking crazy. How does it feel to be more popular than Don Lemon? I mean, I'm definitely more popular on Twitch.tv than Don Lemon, there's no doubt. But I'm not as well known. So, I have a harder core fan base than Don Lemon does because I had to earn it. And Don Lemon was handed it via an institution. He's known of because of an institution that was pushing him. I'm known of because I grinded my way up. That's the difference between the two of us. I'm trying to make a drink, chat. It's every time I make one of my little drinks, it's like a boil in trouble stew shit. Clouding on Destiny probably help. I really need to make a clowned on Destiny clips, because a lot of the arguments that are currently being made about Destiny, very few people talk about how dumb he is. And recently I just talked about how he argued in favor of the Electoral College. He argued that the president doesn't bias federal agencies with his appointments. He's insanely dumb. And I feel like these kind of clips will be very funny because he is very stupid. He has he tries to publish a clip of mine where I laughed at five. Okay, so the context was 538 predicted that Bernie Sanders would win 50 states or 49 states. And I laughed at that because I was making fun of 538. Because I was saying these guys, their model is, because I've always hated Nate Silver. And I said their model is fucking stupid and it's not reliable. But I was also hyped because Bernie Sanders just won a landslide in Nevada. So they try to pretend like I was only laughing at the idea of that there was any uncertainty left in the primary, which is not true. It's not even about endorsements. This is the problem that I think that AOC doesn't understand. The reason why AOC is getting bothered like this is because she's not intervening in enough primaries early enough. And so people want to follow her, but she's not taking advantage of that opportunity. Like, this is just how I feel. By the way, like, if AOC went out and went down to Florida and endorsed Oliver Larkin, people would be fucking hyped as hell for her. And nobody who doesn't currently hate her would then hate her. Nobody likes Jared Moskowitz. So she's missing an opportunity to have people like her more. And they're for no gain, by the way, for no fucking gain. Now, the gain is, oh, she's endorsing a primary challenge. Oh no, people are going to be so mad at her. And it's like, who gives a fuck? Or a better example is, go endorse in Philadelphia, Chris Robb. Go endorse in Wisconsin's governor race. Francesca Hong, go endorse in the open races then. If you don't want to do primaries, go in and campaign in every open race. Go into Michigan's primary for Senate with Abdul Al-Said, already endorsed by Bernie. Like, what are you doing? And now, you know, she ended up endorsing Zorod, but I yelled at her basically like, hey, she's taking too long. But I said, but if you go back and look on AOC endorsing Zorod, I said she really needs to do it now, and she did it like a week later. So I think that the one problem with AOC is she's got a little bit too much DC conventional wisdom in her brain, and it just doesn't have any value anymore. Chris Robb endorsement would be a slam dunk for her. Exactly, of course. AOC met with Kamala. She met with AOC and then JP Morgan Chase date Jamie Dimon. Christ. Kamala Harris has absolutely no juice. Absolutely none. And the idea of her running and winning is impossible. DC conventional wisdom is why she's unsuitable to lead our electoral project. Here's the problem, which is like, again, here's the problem that you don't understand. I don't think you could name the top 10 most left-wing Congress people. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. Because it's very hard to get name recognition and get positive opinions of you, of politicians. Like, for you to be known by most of the country is an incredibly expensive and difficult process that requires billions of dollars of either paid media or earned media. No one else on the left is anywhere close. I'm sorry. They're not. So in order to compete for the presidential election, you'd either need to generate that, or you need to like so that's the problem with like being like, oh, AOC, she's not good enough, blah 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 blah. Because the reasons why she's not good enough are mostly just very small changes in tactics and strategy and presentation. Maybe a vote here or two. It's not that, it's like extremely easy shit to fix. But any alternative that you might bring up needs to have billions of dollars spent on them to raise their name recognition. So what's easier? Spending billions of dollars to raise someone's name recognition, or have AOC be slightly better on her endorsements and how she speaks out? That's why I have a different alternative. I have a different like view on what you're saying, because I understand how difficult it is to be as well thought of and famous as AOC is among the masses of Democrats. The average Democrat knows who AOC is. The average Democrat does not know who J.B. Pritzker is, or Ilhan Omar, or Rashida Tlaib, or Summer Lee, right? Now, maybe they know Ilhan more. Ilhan is probably more known than Summer, for example, and Rashida is more known than Summer is. But that doesn't, but what we're talking about is like every 10% more people that know you is like billions and billions of dollars. So, and the reason why I'm and if you're going like, oh my God, Mike, why are you talking about money? Because what I'm making the number obvious to you so you understand. AOC is well thought of by Democrats and has good policy positions. That makes her way more valuable than you could imagine, because it's very difficult to become known by people with good policy positions, because there's going to be billions spent to shit on you and ruin your reputation. Did you see Ro Khanna debate Adam Johnson on Twitter? Walk the Bombs does have a partial embargo, and that's good. But again, Ro Khanna uses the J Street Netanyahu approved funding frame. Demand is full embargo, not just ending aid. Don't let this PR pivot become normalized. Okay, couple things here. One, an embargo is the demand of BDS, right? And I support BDS. But a weapons embargo is also would be good enough to contain Israel. So like we need to do that for sure. And if necessary, we can continue to escalate. But I don't think it's fair to call it a PR pivot. That's a bit much. Okay. Ro Khanna calls for a demilitarized Palestinian state. This is an indefensible racist double standard. I agree with this. It's not a state if it can't have a military. If you're not allowed to have a military, you're not a state. You are an occupied territory, and you are occupied by whoever is allowed to have a military. So like when Japan wasn't allowed to have a military after World War II, it was very clear why, because the United States of America was occupying the country. So it wasn't an independent country. It was an occupied territory by who? The United States. If Palestine had a state and they had no military, no way to defend themselves, then they're not independent. They're not a state. They are a occupied territory. It's a formulation of France, UK, Canada by letter recognized a Palestinian state, which got many members. It's a practical first step that began with the Arab League, which is a peace plan, guarantees security, or a UN peacekeeping force, which Israel is bombing in Lebanon right now. UN peacekeeping forces have done nothing to deter Israel. So Roe's just wrong. Israel has time and time again ignored UN peacekeeping forces and attacked anyway, including wounding them. Yes, we know that many of the same states that backed Israel as it carried out a genocide in Gaza did the preemptive land acknowledgement routine to cover their ass. Does this not answer the central question? Do you think a Palestinian state has a right to a military? Does the Palestinian state have a right to a Palestinian-run military and self-defense? Of course it should. Otherwise, it's not a state. And this is also why I'm not, this is where the reality of where American opinion is differs from the political reality, right? I'm honored to receive. Okay, Francesca Hogg is getting spammed by bots. Why are there so many bots in her shit? Why is she getting spammed by so many bots? What the fuck is this? Who turned on these bots? They're all posting AI crap, GIFs from 2003 Reddit. This is the most obvious bot account I've ever seen in my life. I'm curious. Who else? Who else is super botted? Elon? Interesting. Look at the Dearborn run taken over by a call of the most evil ideology in the world, started by an evil pedophile prophet, quote, Imam Abdul Malik, stoking terror. Americans are right to be scared that Muslims are here to replace them. We're the new kids on the block. This is our moment. They should be scared. U.S. judge blocks action taken by Trump admin that halted the permitting of wind and solar projects. I mean, what a fucking scumbag he is, dude. Yeah, I don't understand why this is a fate or federal issue. Let the local decide if they want them or not and stop subsidizing them. Dumb fuck. It's because they're corrupt and the oil and gas industry can't compete. All right, let's get going. Let's get going with some actual shit. So here is the U.S. Marines attacking an Iranian civilian ship during the ceasefire. Doing what they're doing is incredibly vulnerable. Incredibly vulnerable. One AK and you could shoot down that helicopter, literally, as it hovers. So Donald Trump has basically become addicted to snuff films. That's really the best way to understand it, is that in order to feel like he's winning, he just watches highlight reel clip compilations. There right now is there's some airmen out there editing clip compilations for the president. How long do you think the escalation of U.S. aggression can continue? My very first industry outside the wire was getting slammed against the wall as I was fast roping down and the pilot reacted to incoming fire. Exiting the helo is when you are the most vulnerable for sure. Yeah, no shit. All right, here is U.S. Marines attacking, conducted a right of visit, maritime interdiction and boarding of a stateless sanctioned M/T Tiffany without incident. We will pursue global maritime enforcement efforts to disrupt illicit networks and interdict sanctioned vessels. Sanctioned by whom? The answer is the United States. So this is basically the end of the free navigation of the seas, right? The United States says you're not allowed to sell oil, and it's between Iran and China. There's no legal precedent there. That's just the United States engaged in piracy.
Stop U.S. oil exports during this conflict.
Isn't this confirmation that they sold out? No ceasefire in Lebanon, and the blockade is also not lifted. Both preconditions, as they said. We'll see. All you can do is wait and see. Okay, if they go to the ceasefire negotiations and none of the preconditions are cleared, then yes. it makes sense as to why Trump thinks this is perceived weakness, because they are showing weakness.
I mean, if all you need to understand if you're Iran is stock market go down, we are winning. Stock market going up, we are being perceived to lose. That's literally all they have to. It's actually that simple. It's actually that simple. Like if the stock market is going up, then Iran is being perceived as being defeated by Trump. If the stock market is going down, then Iran seems to be out of control of Trump. That is literally the only thing that Trump is looking at. If Trump looks at the stock market and he sees green, he goes, oh, that means I'm doing the good thing. I can keep doing what I want. He just said, by the way, Trump's surprised by stock market comeback amid Iran conflict, thought Dow would be down 20%.
I said to my people,
and this is what I've been saying since last week, which is when the stock market is going up, Donald Trump feels like he can keep doing exactly what he wants.
Gathered all these wonderful guys, Scott Bessent, the whole group, Howard, they're all doing a good job. I said, fellas, I got a little bad news for you. I'm going to put a little wrinkle in your numbers. Why, sir? We're going down to a place called Iran, and we're going to make sure that they never have a nuclear weapon because they'll use it to blow up, because they're religious fanatics, and they will use that weapon to blow up the world, but they'll start with Israel in the Middle East, and we're not going to let that happen. And they said, wow, that's going to be bad. I said, yeah, it's going to hurt the market, and it's going to drive up the price of oil and whatever it is. But that's peanuts compared to what would happen if we let this happen. And I told them, 47 years other presidents wanted to do it. They never had the guts, the courage to do it. I said, we have to do it. And they understood that, very professional. They're great guys, great people. Jameson's doing such a great job, all of them. And so I said, we're going down, and we're going to do our little thing. And we did. And we've, knocked out. We've totally won the war. If you read the New York Times, you think, oh, gee, when are we surrendering? We have totally beat them militarily and otherwise. I mean, I wish you could hear the conversations we have with him, with them. We are victorious. If we left right now, it would take them 20 years to rebuild. And they can't get the nuclear dust because it was obliterated by the B-2 bombers that went in. They never got the credit they should get. They've tried to get down there. We have cameras from Space Force on it all the time. They've tried to get down. They can't get down. That place was obliterated. They did such a good job. The left tries to make it, tries to demean all the time, like, oh, well, maybe it wasn't totally obliterated. It was, and they can't get it, or they would have tried to get it. But the fact is that we took this little journey. And if you would have told me that the Dow is almost, I'm looking at your thing, I mean, literally we're at 50,000. And if you would have told me that oil is at 90 as opposed to 200, I would be frankly surprised. And you know what is happening? Boats are finding other sources. They're going up to Texas and Louisiana. They're going to Alaska. They're going to other places. It's an amazing phenomenon. When there are problems, people find out how to take care of things. And
so basically this is how, I mean, so on Friday when they tweeted out, we're doing a ceasefire. We are doing a ceasefire. The stock market went up 1,000 points and oil dropped 15%. That was a huge win for Trump. Now it turns out that there haven't been actual exports of oil. So all of that was just bullshit. But the stock market has been floating on sentiment for a long time, which is the idea that there's a Trump put. What does that mean? It means that everybody in the stock market right now believes that Trump's not going to let the stock market go down. So everybody's buying shit and driving it up because they think if the stock market goes down, they're going to be bailed out. So there's only upside. You can call that the Trump put. Every time oil goes up, Donald Trump is going to do something to make oil prices go down. Every time the stock market goes down, Trump's going to do something to make the stock market prices go back up. That is a belief that's based off bullshit. But if the Iranians help Trump do that, then he's going to keep attacking them. The Iranians should be doing the opposite. The Iranians should be doing the opposite, which is they should be laying out ultimatums and they should be putting pressure on Trump. Instead of Trump saying, I'm going to carpet bomb your country if you don't agree to a peace deal by X, Y, and Z, the Iranians should say, if America doesn't do X, Y, and Z, we're going to do this in response to the attacks. They should be doing that. But the fact that they're unable to do that, or they're not willing to do that, or they have faith in international diplomacy. I mean, at this point in history, if you have faith in international diplomacy with Israel and the United States, you're a fucking moron. And, it doesn't matter if you're a moderate. It doesn't matter if you're conciliatory toward them. They're still murdering those people.
The strait's very important, but people have found out. I mean, you're taking a look. Look at your numbers right now. I'm looking at where the stock market's up and where it's, look at that, S&P. The numbers are what they were when we started this whole thing. I thought they'd be down 20% or down a very substantial amount. Even when it was down more a couple of weeks ago, I was surprised. I thought it would be down much more, and I thought the oil would be much higher, and I'm very happy to say that it wasn't. And when it's over, and it will end, when it's over, they want it to be over immediately, and I just looked at a little...
I mean, when I listen to Trump, it doesn't sound like the war is ending anytime soon to me. Like, this does not sound like a man who could put firm promises that it's going to end this weekend, which is what the markets are acting like. The markets are acting like this war is going to be over by Friday. We've been acting that way for the last month. As long as Iranians can threaten shipping in the Strait, they have leverage. They are fighting back. News coverage just favored the U.S. narrative. Yes, you're right. No, you're absolutely right. The problem is the news coverage and the sentiment is giving Trump more space in order to operate politically. Do you understand? Like, if the markets thought that Iran was not going to do a peace deal anytime soon, that would cause the markets to crash, which would paradoxically allow Iran to get a good peace deal because the pressure would be on Trump. Trump is the one doing the war. Israel is the one doing the war. If Iran wants to be out of this war, they have to escalate the war. They have to put the pressure on Trump. They have to make the stock market go down. They have to make the oil prices go up. They have to escalate to de-escalate. If they try to de-escalate, it'll escalate because Trump feels like he can demand more and more and more and more. And this is how it always works with Trump. How did the Chinese deal with Trump? Whenever Trump tried to throw tariffs or whatever or threaten China, they immediately attacked back. And the U.S. stock market started to crash and Trump fucking taco Trumped. That's how the Chinese dealt with the tariffs. They said, we don't care. We don't fucking care. Tariff us. We'll be fine. And that caused the stock market to go down, and then Donald Trump tacoed. The Iranians are giving Trump exactly what they need. He needs to extend the war and put more pressure on them. Now, this analysis is just me paying attention. It's not that complicated if you've been paying attention.
Chart. World War I, 4 years and 3 months. World War II, 6 years.
This guy is talking about wars lasting years, and people think there's going to be a peace treaty next week. My guess is they want to look as reliable to other nations as they can to collect tolls so they will pay the responsible actor during the ceasefire. Having faith in international diplomacy in a time of neo-fascism is naivete of the likes of which I cannot even explain. All treaties, all norms of international law are obliterated, and they've been obliterated for years at this point. The only thing that you could get are transactional relationships where you get paid up front. Any deal that requires you doing something now in exchange for a future promise is a sucker's deal in the world of today. We are living in a Hobbesian nightmare of war of all against all. There is no guarantees. There are no promises. There are only swindles. And that is the world of Donald Trump. That is the world of fascism.
Korean War, 3 years. Vietnam, 19 years. Iraq, 8 years. I'm 5 months. Okay, 5 months. I would have won Vietnam very quickly. I would have, if I were president, I would have won Iraq in the same amount of time that we won, because essentially we've won here. Okay, I mean, people can play games. The Democrats can say, well, we should have done better. No matter what, if I did it in 1 week, they should have said, they'd say we should have done better. Look at Venezuela. I took it over in 45 minutes. It was basically a 45-minute. And by the way, a very strong military country. And we took it over in a day, but let's be nice. But we basically took it over in 45 minutes. We took it over during the attack in 45 minutes.
But Mr. President,
and they would say, I'm surprised they haven't said it, that you should have done it in 30 minutes. It took too long, So it's tough. But we can't let traitors. We can't let traitors like Schumer put pressure on you where they say we want out. Think how bad that is. I'm negotiating with these people. And they're telling us, we have to get out now, we have to get out now, we have to get now. And they were in a war for 18 years. They were in a war for, think of that, Vietnam, 19 years, Iraq, 8 years. So right. I want to make a good deal. I'm not going to be rushed. I have all the time in the world. I want to make not a good deal, I want to make a great deal. I don't want to do this, go through this. And, I mean, if you look at this, what we've suffered in terms of losses, we lost 13 men, and that's terrible. I wish we didn't lose one. But if somebody would have said, we've done this and obliterated that country, obliterated it, and we lost 13 men, people would have said that's not possible to have done that. It's not possible.
Right.
So we
Okay, so listen to this. So do you understand? I understand Trump. If you want Trump to be backed off, you have to give him a bloody nose. He is a schoolyard bully. You're not going to negotiate with him. Well, if I give you my lunch money today, will you leave me alone for the rest of the year? And he says yes, and then he takes your lunch money. And then the next day, he's there again saying, I changed my mind. I'm changing the deal. Give me your lunch money today. That is negotiating with Donald Trump. The only way to make Donald Trump stop is if I go and bother that person over lunch money, I'll get hit in the head with a rock. That's probably not the kid I want to get bullied, because that kid fucks me up when I try to bully them. Y'all got bullied? Couldn't be me. I mean, I'm just going by this. If you know me, you know that I am a little bit cracked. And so if somebody fucks with me, you know that it's not okay. Anyway, the thing is, I'm generally nice and chill. I'm a loudmouth. I'm opinionated, but I'm not like somebody who likes to go around and pull the wings off flies, right? I'm not like somebody who's looking for victims to sadistically abuse, right? I'm not interested in shit talking people for no reason, right? But if you fuck with me and you become, in my mind, fair game, Mike, they're going to resume the war. That's what I said. U.S. Air Force air bridge over Europe into the Middle East continues with at least 16 Globemaster 3s joining 2 Strato tankers right now. Globemasters. So Globemasters are cargo planes, chat, usually used to move troops or supplies for troops. It's a big boy, but it's for cargo. These are the countries that use it. Here it is moving a self-propelled howitzer. Here it is moving a Chinook. There's another thing C-17s are used for. So the wingspan is 169 feet 10 inches. So I wonder what we're taking.
Done a great job, and I don't want to be rushed by people that are really treasonous as far as I'm concerned. And it's just, I watch this low IQ guy, Hakeem Jeffries. He's a totally low IQ person, and he's always ranting and raving, oh, this war is so terrible, terrible. They shouldn't be saying that when we're in the midst of a negotiation, because it does hurt us somewhat. It gives the other side some hope, and I don't want them to have hope.
Join us now on the Squawk Newsline, President Donald J. Trump. President Trump, welcome. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Well, thank you very much, Joe.
You are very welcome. Can you give us, I think it's on everyone's mind, the latest?
So, by the way, chat, Donald Trump is on CNBC. Do you understand that I understand the boomer brain rot? I understand the boomer fucking brain rot of Donald fucking Trump. This is the way he thinks. He is watching the stocks. If the stocks go up, if oil prices go down, he thinks I could kill more kids. If oil prices go up and stocks go down, he goes, oh, and he starts freaking out and yelling at all of his staff and firing people.
On where the Iran negotiations stand, we now know Tehran has publicly confirmed that it will send representatives to the meeting with Vice President Vance. What do you expect? What are you hearing at this point, sir?
Well, as I said 2 days ago when they said they won't send them, I said they'll be sending them. They have no choice but to send them. What I think is that we're going to end up with a great deal. I think they have no choice. We've taken out their Navy. We've taken out their Air Force. We've taken out their leaders, frankly, which does complicate things in one way, but these leaders are much more rational. It is regime change, no matter what you want to call it, which is not something I said I was going to do, but I've done it, indirectly maybe, but I've done it. And I think we're in a very strong negotiating position to do what other presidents should have done during a 47-year period. We have 47 years where these bloodthirsty people have been killing a lot of soldiers, a lot of our soldiers, and a lot of other people. They've killed 42,000 people over the last 2 months. And, you get to a point where people don't want to mention that. They don't like mentioning that. 42,000 unarmed protesters, innocent unarmed protesters, many of them hung. So we're not dealing with the nicest group of people, but we're dealing with them very successfully, and the blockade has been a tremendous success. They said 2 days ago, we will open the strait. I said, no, we're not going to open the strait until we have a final deal. No, we want to open the strait. They said, we're not opening. We totally control the strait, just so you understand, for all the fake news out there.
And, Mr. President, we've seen 100 days of the largest protests in Iran since the revolution in 1979. And I know how much you respect and admire and are concerned with the Iranian people themselves. And this is, I think, in large degree, one of the reasons you decided to embark on this whole thing, maybe among other things, but the timing was right. If we get close in negotiations right now, but the deadline for the ceasefire is tomorrow, if it looks like things are progressing, will you not necessarily extend it to a definitive amount of time, but will you let it keep going if there's progress in the talks before taking...
Well, I don't want to do that. We don't have that much time because by the time both parties get there, as you know, they just got the okay to go forward, which I knew they were going to do anyway. I mean, I don't think they had a choice. They have to negotiate. And, you know, the one thing I'll say is this: Iran can get themselves on a very good footing if they make a deal. They can make themselves into a strong nation again, a wonderful nation again. They have incredible people. But they seem to be, you know, bloodthirsty. They're led by some very, very, unfortunately, tough people. And I don't mean tough in a good way. I think it's very negative for the country because we're much tougher than they are, like not even close. But they have to use reason, and they have to use common sense, and they can get themselves into a great position to make them.
Basically, Donald Trump is a fascist. All right. And to understand the fascist authoritarian mentality, which is they want to submit to strength. Think of like a beta male gorilla. Right? That's Donald Trump. He wants the silverback to come in, beat its chest, and he'll extend his arm. That's what he wants. Okay? So if you want to get Donald Trump to stop doing fuck shit, you have to threaten him. That's the only thing he understands. That's the only thing that has ever affected him. That's why he likes North Korea. That's why he likes China, because they have the ability to threaten him. And in his cucked fucking fascist brain, somebody making him feel fear means they're good. Somebody who's able to stand up to him means they're good because they're strong. He doesn't value goodness. He doesn't value generosity. He doesn't value kindness because the only time he's any of those things is because he has to be. He's being forced to be. So if he sees you being kind, if he sees you being nice, if he sees you being reasonable, then he feels like, well, I only act that way when I'm scared. So he uses that as evidence that you're scared of him. He doesn't believe that people can be good. And this is something that I want. If you are a good person, I want you to understand something. Many, many, many people, especially the most evil people you will encounter, interpret kindness and generosity as weakness. All right? So if you're a good and kind person, you're going to find yourself in conflicts with people who falsely interpret that as weakness, as capitulation, as a sign that you could be exploited. So in order to be a kind person, you also need to develop a sociopath detector. You need to detect an ability to notice if people are reciprocating. And you shouldn't accept in relationships with people that don't reciprocate. Like, this is something that you need to develop, or else you're going to become cynical, and then you're going to become a bad person yourself because you are, the people that are rushing to you are those that are there to exploit you. So you need to figure out how to separate people that are kind and generous themselves from people that are there to take. And I can tell you, if you don't learn that, you're going to be broken by this world. But the good news is the vast majority of people are actually kind. The vast majority of people are actually kind. But they may be a little bit porcupine. They may be a little bit, scared of being hurt. But Donald Trump, he is the archetype that we're all worried about. And he's in the fucking White House. And so if you are dealing with Donald Trump or America at this point, you will only be respected if fucking with you causes consequences. You're not going to be able to escape by capitulating. Capitulation is just signs you need to keep doing it. He's the fucking grasshopper from Ants.
Themselves into a great country, but a legitimate country, not a country based on.
They can have forever. That's the tier 3.
Bend
the knee for a tier 3. I saw a tier 3 and I saw 0 bended knees. Bend knees for tier 3s. Like, what the fuck? Chat. I need to make sure I thank my tier 3 subs more. I've been thanking gifters lately, but I really need to thank tier 3ers more. We need to do something for the tier 3s. The tier 3s need more recognition and more thanks because, gifts are flashy, but tier 3s are where it's at. Ham and Fist, thank you for the tier 3. Lovature, thank you for the tier 3. Look at that. Look at that. Tier 3s are the best. Update the channel rewards point, please. Yeah, I need to figure out something. I still have Romeo as my lock screen, chat. I just can't make myself change it. You know what I mean? Who controls the world? Capitalists. It's the most obvious answer. There's a cabal of Western capital that controls the world. All of our institutions largely serve the interests of the super rich. Some of them are European aristocratic families. Many of them are American capitalists, and it's a small incestuous network mostly focused around New York financier Jeffrey Epstein, who Donald Trump was a close intimate with. So that's who controls the world. The Epstein class of capitalists, the pedocracy.
I think regimes only respond to certain things, and I understand your threats to bomb the bridges in the electric grid, but I don't think the regime cares about the people of Iran. And if you did that, I'm sure it's the last thing you'd probably want to do, but it would hurt at least some of the people that we care about and why we embarked on this in the first place. So that would be, I'm sure, a last resort for you.
It's not my choice, but it will also hurt them. It'll hurt them militarily. They use the bridges for their weapons, for their missile movements. You know, they're trying to move the missiles because we've obliterated most of their missiles, and they're trying to move their missiles around, even during the ceasefire, which I think was a good thing because we're totally loaded up. We have so much ammo. We have so much of everything that we've, like, much more powerful than it was 4 or 5 weeks ago. So we've used this to restock, and they probably have done a little bit of restocking. We caught a ship yesterday that had some things on it which wasn't very nice, a gift from China perhaps, I don't know. But I was a little surprised, but because I have a very good relationship, and I thought I had an understanding with President Xi, but that's all right. That's the way war goes, right? But I will tell you that our military is incredible, what we've done. I mean, think of it. In the first 3 days, we took out their entire Navy, 159 ships. 159 ships, and wiped out their Air Force, wiped out their anti-aircraft, all of their anti-aircraft apparatus is all gone. All of their radar is gone. Their leaders are gone. You know, their leaders are gone. The whole thing is gone. And frankly, this should have been done a long time ago. It would have been a lot easier because they were a lot less lethal a long time ago.
So to be clear, you're saying that you need at least the prospects for a signed deal today and tomorrow, or else you would resume bombing Iran?
Well, I expect to be bombing because I think that's a better attitude to go in with. But we're ready to go. I mean, the military is raring to go. They are absolutely incredible. You know, I built the military in my first term. I'm using it now. The military, when I took it over from Barack Hussein Obama, it was so depleted, so sad. And I built it in my first term. You remember those big numbers. You talked to me about it once. That's a lot of money for military. I built it. We did a great job with our military, and we're using it now and rebuilding it, too. We've done a lot of rebuilding also in my first year of the second term. But we have we have the most powerful military in the world. Everybody knows it.
Since we're kind of tight on time, can we just talk about what something else happening today, and that is your pick for Fed Chair Kevin Warsh on Capitol Hill. We've had a couple of guests.
All right, chat, we have a hype train going on. Holy fuck, I didn't even notice. The tier 3s had fired it off. So right now, the top sub gifter, the top bit donor could be yours for as little as 3 gifted subs or 200 bits. We're already at level 7. Do you see how good tier 3s are, chat? Left Justified, thank you for the tier 3. I want like some sort of bigger deal when someone subs at tier 3. Twitch, what the fuck's wrong with you? I'm literally going to get that changed. I'm going to talk to some of the engineers at Twitch and be like, can you do something better for tier 3s? Like, somebody gives 2 subs, they get more of a fucking like rigmarole than someone subbing at tier 3. I feel like tier 3 should get more. Maybe their chats should be like perma highlighted. I mean, maybe that's annoying. Maybe not. That's annoying. There needs to be some sort of like more of an alert. Maybe I have the ability to do that and I'm just lazy and I never did it. When are this tier 3s getting stream dividends? Motherfucker, I've been posting on my YouTube. You guys said, oh, Mike, post on your YouTube, post on your YouTube. I've been posting on my YouTube multiple videos a week. I started a podcast that's putting out banger after banger. We're going to have Sam Cedar on the show He's recording tomorrow on the show. We've already had Liv Agar. We've already had Hassan Piker. We've done shows on Destiny, Sam Hyde, Asmongold, Clavicular. What the fuck? Who's producing more content than me? Meanwhile, I've brought in Francesca Hong. I've brought in Oliver Larkin. I brought on Kat Abughazaleh. I brought on, I'm bringing on Chris Robb. I'm bringing on Claire Valdez. I've got like multiple congressional DSA related candidates coming on. I'm going to scoop Hassan on Chris Robb. Hackstock, I'm about to time you out for a week. Hail Horse, thank you for the 5 tier 1s. When's the hot tub stream? The mic for PA content. Exactly. Would you bring on Sakat? Maybe. Generally can't decide, but who do you think is more gross, Asmongold or Clavicular? Clavicular is much better of a content creator for the right. I think Clavicular may actually be one of the more talented right-wing content creators. I think Asmongold is probably the most overrated and motionless content creator of all time, and primarily is botted. I think Asmongold is probably the most overrated content creator in the entire world, because a significant portion of his viewers and supporters are bots. How do I know? I think you would get more motion making fun of Vosh than you would Asmongold. And it's not because like, I just think there's more people legitimately paying attention to like a million, like probably like 1,000 creators at least than Asmongold. Asmongold is fake. Whereas Clavicular actually has people that are interested in him. Like people are more interested in Clavicular than him. When I bring on Sakat, I'm still thinking about it. I got hard sell for Congress hoodie the other day, and that shit comfy as hell. Hell yeah. Don't you think he lost a lot of motion? Well, yeah, because I don't know if you noticed, guys, but Donald Trump is unpopular, and right-wing politics makes your life worse. Hey guys, notice how nothing has gotten better? Oil, gas prices are up, housing prices are just as shitty, jobs are not good, the environment, like what is better? There's nothing better. No one's life is getting better. You should do an episode with Nathan Grayson, definitely. Why are so many older leftists so anti-China? Older leftist MLs. It goes back to the Sino-Soviet split. Basically, there was the Sino-Soviet split. Basically made. Ironically, it started because Mao was mad that they were disparaging Stalin, and so they were like, oh, they're becoming soft on the West. Right. And then the Chinese and, because of the Sino-Soviet split, the United States started to have a rapprochement with the Chinese because the Chinese were considered to be like a major, it was a major asset to the socialist side that China was on their side. So through a diplomatic gambit, the United States, Nixon went to China and kind of started to normalize relations between China and the West. And then Deng came in and he said, we need to do some economic reforms in exchange for opening up to the world economy. And so they did reform and opening up, which many MLs saw as revisionism and capitalist rodeo. So the original Sino-Soviet split happened over the Chinese saying the Soviet Union wasn't communist enough. And that led to an opening where the Chinese became more revisionist than the Soviet Union. And so the Soviet Union was always much more involved in like geopolitical struggle, and they had a lot more like money that flowed to various like communist groups, and they were constantly like, doing international aggressive, espionage and ideological support for people that were aligned with defending the Soviet Union. That makes sense? So ultimately, a lot of people are carrying on a tradition that was fostered by a connection to the Soviet Union, and that shit has died out 30 fucking years ago. Deng never betrayed Mao. I'm not saying he did. I'm just talking about the events that took place. The Sino-Soviet split allowed China to eventually remove itself from isolation, and reform and opening up has allowed China to develop the productive forces under the Communist Party. Meanwhile, the Communist Party of Russia collapsed. And the Communist Party of China has managed to keep control of the country and keep the Communist Party in power through ideological and other reforms that were not considered plausible until they happened, right? And the Russians tried to do a softer version of reform and opening up with glasnost and perestroika, but it ultimately led to a political crisis that dissolved the Soviet Union. It was not an economic crisis that dissolved the Soviet Union. That is not correct. It was a political crisis that dissolved the Soviet Union. The economic crisis happened after they dismantled their economy and followed neoliberalism. That's when the economic crisis happened. The economic crisis, there was stagnation, there was kind of ennui, but Europe has been stagnating for 20 fucking years. Since the almost 20 years. Since the 2008 crisis, European GDP is flat. We're in the capitalist stagnation period in Europe, very similar to what happened with the USSR. European GDP chart since 2008. This is very funny. No, I don't want growth. See how in 2008 it was 16 trillion and it was 16 trillion in 2022? See how European Union economy has been fucking flat? Now it just started to grow again. There was big inflation 2023, but European Union GDP was below 2008 all the way until all the way through 2020. So 12 years of flat growth, which is incredible. And most of that was due to what? Inflation. Anyway, long story short, let's go back to Donald Trump.
The best thing that we need now is for Jay Powell to leave in May, like he's supposed to, and to have Kevin Warsh in as Fed chair for that next June.
Stop presenting the what? What are you trying to say? Stop presenting the... Please stop calling China communist or socialist. They're capitalist now. They are a socialist. They're a communist party with a socialist country that has a state capitalist economy. That's what China is. And they have what they call state-led, state capitalist, market socialism. That's what they call it. I mean, or a better way of putting it, socialism with Chinese characteristics. And, ultimately, 40% of Chinese GDP is run by state-owned companies. And 60% of their market capitalization is state-owned enterprise. And the most important sectors of the economy are owned by the government. So we're talking about electrical generation. We're talking about transportation. We're talking about the military-industrial complex, like any type of like military contractor, banking, which is very important. So that's like the reality of it, right? So having a command economy, having no private enterprise or very limited private enterprise, that doesn't mean that that's not socialist. Like market socialism has been a developmental model that has been tried in the past. And anybody who's trying to be like, no, that's not communist. Well, that's not what they're not claiming to currently have a capitalist existence or a communist existence. They are saying that they are developing the productive forces, but maintaining the commanding heights of the economy and political primacy of a dictatorship of the proletariat, meaning the capitalist class exists, but it doesn't dominate politics. And that's just, do I think China will attain communism? I think humanity will attain communism because communism is the next step in development. Humanity is going to reach a point technologically and socially where we no longer have to divide among ownership over the means of production. That, and that is the primary division that we have in our society. Are you a member of the owning class? Or are you a member of the producing class? That distinction will eventually fall.
Meeting, but we still have this Justice Department probe.
I'll give you an example. If you're skeptical of that, think about Star Trek. In Star Trek, they have matter, antimatter, energy generation. So they generate power through colliding matter with antimatter. So that causes a perfect conversion of matter to energy. 100% efficient. Okay. And then they have a technology called the replicator, which allows them to take the energy from their matter, antimatter reactors and turn them into whatever material needs they need. They have clothing, food, medicine, whatever the fuck they need. They could just boop, 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 boop. Do you need to have a replicator owner, Baron? Do you think that there's like a guy who owns the replicator factory and he's making a lot of profit? No, because at that level of technology, the concept of making profit loses all meaning. And it's merely a cultural artifact. as opposed to a social necessity. So humanity moved beyond having that kind of economic model because the means of production developed to such an extent that capitalist proletarian division no longer made sense. Mike, the replicator owner front of the Capitol built the factory, deserves the surplus labor output. Oh, no. Now, I will say this about Star Trek. The reason why I bring up Star Trek is because all of us can kind of intuitively understand at a certain level of development, having a job where you're doing it for a wage doesn't make sense anymore. Nobody is on the fucking ship to get paid. Star Trek Lower Decks actually had an episode where the capitalists and monarchs freaked out when their planet discovered replicator technology. Yeah, of course, because there's no reason to have a fucking capitalist. Soviet units were not allowed to succeed in the same way China was because they were the titular enemy of the imperialist United States. If China was under the same sabotage, they would have fallen the same way. Well, they were under the same sabotage up until the Sino-Soviet split. And the United States saw an opportunity to try to like capture China into an anti-Soviet grouping, right? And so they allowed China to do reform and opening up because they were trying to create a larger anti-Soviet bloc. So, but it backfired because the communists and the Communist Party of China didn't actually do what they expected, which is revert to becoming greedy capitalists. They actually maintained the dictatorship of the proletariat. They actually just did measured reforms. They actually just accepted Western capital for the purpose of what? Improving their own conditions and productivity. China got lucky. They're not special. That's not luck. It's not luck. They sat down. They developed that strategy. They executed the strategy. Now they're a world superpower. They did exactly what they said they were going to do. And everybody thought that that was bullshit. They thought they were just bullshitting until they would collapse and then capitalists would take over China. And that's why everybody's mauling. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, China was our top trade partner. And nobody complained about anything China was doing. But the moment they realized, oh wait, Xi Jinping actually might be a socialist, now suddenly China is our enemy. China used to be like actually more popular than not 15 years ago. Why? Because the United States wasn't spending billions of dollars on propaganda attacking it. And we all accepted that we needed Chinese production for our standard of living. And it was when Xi Jinping came in and he said, all right, some of these tech capitalists are out of control. And I'm going to, I'm going to raise 800 million people out of poverty. And I'm going to do an anti-corruption initiative. Now suddenly China's our enemy. Notice none of those things were invading other countries. Notice none of those points were, committing a genocide. Notice none of those points were like attacking the United States of America in any way. They were just, hey, we're going to do things to help people in China more. Exactly. And that respite is what allowed China to succeed. No, exactly. I agree. That's why do you think they constantly sanction Cuba and Venezuela? Because if Cuba and Venezuela were allowed to interact with the rest of the world economy and develop state capitalism and develop state-owned enterprise and sell their products and demonstrate their model to the rest of the world, they would be the richest states in their region. That's why they have to be stopped. Because Venezuelan oil profits going to develop Venezuela would develop Venezuela. So they had to stop Venezuela from developing because that would mean every country in the world that had some valuable natural resource the West depended upon would follow that same model and they would develop. Every country in the world can build a factory. It's just a plan. You follow a plan and you have a factory. What every country in the world doesn't have are resources. And so countries that have resources would have an advantage over countries that didn't have resources. The reason why the United States was the richest country in the world is because we had the resources. Why do you think Pittsburgh was Pittsburgh? Why was Pittsburgh Steel Town? Because it was right next to anthracite coal deposits. And you float it down the Monongahela River, right to the mills. So that's why the United States developed first, because it had the resources right next to the rivers. And you built the steel mills and it developed its country because it had the resources immediately within the country. So building the factory was the easy part. Getting access to the resources better than everywhere else was why we developed first. So there has been a concerted effort to keep the third world underdeveloped. This is the thing I always show you. Oh no. I want the video. I don't want the quote. Fuck. And what I just explained to you, chat, nobody will explain. What I just explained to you is what no liberal will explain. because they're trying to create this like mysticism about why are places poor? Oh, we don't know. Conservatives will say it's because they're an inferior race. That's what conservatives will say. They will say Venezuelans are subhuman and they just don't know how to run an economy. That's why they're poor. Africans are subhuman. They don't know how to run an economy. That's why they're poor. That's what a conservative will say. Okay. A liberal will imply it and just shrug their shoulders and go, oh, it's the culture. Well, there's corruption and there's norms and it's just so hard to fix. And we don't know why there's so much corruption in Africa. And we're working with the UN and we just haven't been able to do it yet. Oh man, it's so unfortunate how Africans are not developed and they don't have education and infrastructure. Oh, shucks. That's what a liberal will say. And then what's the reality? The reality is American puppets are put into place in these countries to set up extractive relationships where we bribe these politicians and oligarchs and warlords. We give them billions of dollars. Their families live lavish lifestyles in American and European capitals. And they administer a slave economy, which hyper exploits and brutalizes the people. And who is it to benefit? European and American capital. They're able to get the resources for cheap or even profit from the sale of the resources. That's how it works. So those countries are kept poor in order to make a surplus population of laborers that they can hyper exploit. And then American capitalists are the ones who gain the profit. That's why the world is the way it is. European and American capitalists hold down the third world. That's why they attack Venezuela so viciously. That's why they sanction it. That's why they kidnap their leaders. That's why they blockade. That's why they steal their money. It's so that these countries cannot develop. Why? Because development is easy. We know how to do it. It's actually not that hard. So that's why they hate the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative, because the Chinese are saying to these countries, how about we engage in a mutually beneficial agreement and we'll help you develop and we'll help you raise your standard of living and we'll have free trade with you. Now, obviously, the Chinese are benefiting because they're getting access to resources that they wouldn't have access to. So China has the most advanced industrial economy. So they have the best value add. They have the best ability through positive externalities and path dependency to turn raw resources into finished goods at the lowest possible price. No one else can compete on that right now, right? So they help these countries develop it and enrich themselves. They create relationships, and then they also create markets for their products. So the Chinese economy can continue to grow and expand and raise the standard of living of its own people, while also helping other countries develop and expand their economies and create a mutually beneficial arrangement. That's what the United States is scared of, because the United States doesn't want to develop those countries. They want a permanent extractive relationship. That's called neocolonialism. And this phenomenon that I'm discussing is basically not explained.
The third world is not poor. You don't go to poor countries to make money. There are very few poor countries in this world. Most countries are rich. The Philippines are rich. Brazil is rich. Mexico is rich. Chile is rich. Only the people are poor. But there's billions to be made there, to be carved out and to be taken. There's been billions for 400 years. The capitalist European and North American powers have carved out and taken the timber, the flax, the hemp, the cocoa, the rum, the tin, the copper, the iron, the rubber, the bauxite, the slaves, and the cheap labor. They have taken out of these countries. These countries are not underdeveloped, they're overexploited.
And that's why Donald Trump kidnaps one guy in Venezuela and leaves the entire government the same. And now suddenly there's a bunch of oil and gold flowing from Venezuela to America. And it's not being reported by anybody. What changed? You're telling me one guy? No, what changed is America said, we will accept contracts that are brutal, unfair contracts with Venezuela. Well, we will take the profits, but we'll allow you back into the world economy, or else we'll keep attacking you with guns. And so the people, through coercion, have accepted an unequal treaty. There's another country that accepted unequal treaties. Well, there's multiple, but China and Japan and Korea. The unequal treaties were a series of agreements made between Asian countries, most notably China, Japan, and Korea, and Western countries, most notably the European United Kingdom, France, Germany, Austria, Hungary, Italy, Portugal, the United States, and Russia during the 19th and 20th centuries. They were often signed following a military defeat by the Asian party or amid military threats made by the Western party. This is exactly what Donald Trump is doing to Venezuela right now. It's the same shit. The terms specified obligations to be borne almost exclusively by the Asian party, including provisions such as the cessation of territory. That's Taiwan. That's Hong Kong. That's Macau. They were invaded and forced to give up those spaces, right? Payment of reparations, opening of treaty ports. A treaty port is a port where basically a country loses sovereignty over that port. And it is a place where foreign capitalists can set up trade or business enterprises that are usually tax-free. Guantanamo Bay is a treaty port in Cuba, which we took after the Spanish-American War. Relinquishment of the right to control tariffs and imports and granting of extraterritoriality, Jesus Christ, that word, to foreign citizens. Thank you. And so through the Treaty of Nanjing, Britain obtained Hong Kong and trading access to 5 treaty ports: Shanghai, Guangzhou, Ningbo. I can't pronounce Chinese cities' names. I'm gonna lose my white Chinese status if I try. Same thing with the USA did the same thing. France did the same thing. Oh, you didn't know that? So this is what the United States does for these countries. It was formally in effect until the signing of the 1943 Sino-American Treaty for the relinquishment of extraterritorial rights in China. Wait a minute. Who signed that? And then the Republic of China lost the Civil War. We're like, wait, our puppets lost? Sanction China again. After the establishment of the People's Republic of China in 1949, an embargo against the sale of military technology or infrastructure previously levied against the Soviet Union was expanded to include the newly established People's Republic of China. Following the onset of the Korean War, further trade restrictions were imposed. The trade embargo was lifted under Richard Nixon in 1972, right before the reform and opening up period and establishment of official relations. So it's exactly what I tried to explain to you earlier, which is, countries trying to develop itself and not be a puppet of the United States capitalists. Sanctioned, ban, blockade, attack. Is anybody sanctioning Guatemala? Did you see the CIA car crash? What the fuck is this? 2 U.S. officials killed in a car crash early Sunday in northern Mexico while returning from a counter-cartel operation in northern Mexico. The 2 Mexican security agents who were also killed in the crash were members of the Central Intelligence Agency. Well, 2 Americans killed in Mexico crash were CIA officers. Wait a minute! I was told we don't interfere in countries anymore. By Hutch. The 2 Americans were killed on Sunday when their vehicle crashed while returning from a counter-cartel operations led by Mexico's armed forces. 2 American officials killed in a car crash early Sunday in northern Mexico returning from a counter-cartel operation. According to people familiar with the episode, 2 CIA officers, including 2 Mexican officials, were killed while their vehicle crashed while returning from an operation led by Mexico's armed forces to dismantle clandestine methamphetamine labs in the mountains. Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico said on Monday that her cabinet had no prior knowledge of activities involving Americans, Chihuahua, and would investigate whether their involvement in the operations violated Mexico's national security laws. I think my HVAC system broke. My computer's cooking me right now. Anyway, long story short, I don't even know why we got off on this rant. I think the rant was Donald Trump is a fascist. Anyway, let's keep going.
Hanging over. And I've seen things that you said in recent interviews, Mr. President. And I just want to ask you again, if it would be possible for the banking committee to completely investigate all of your concerns about the cost overruns and the testimony of Jay Powell in front of Congress, if you could take that off-ramp to get this moving and Jay Powell leaves, Kevin Warsh goes in. Is that something you'd consider dropping for the DOJ probe to let the banking committee handle it?
From the standpoint, Joe, from the standpoint that we have to find out why a small building costs close to $4 billion. It's not finished, by the way. They have a long way to go. They ripped down the most beautiful ceilings. They'll never build them again. The most beautiful, thick, 1.5 foot thick walls of solid masonry. They're never going to be built again. They put up 6-inch sheetrock walls. And they say, so we have no insulation. It's not in the budget. I mean, these walls, they had the best. That building was so beautiful. I would have fixed that building. I would have had it brand new, beautiful for $25 million. And they're going to spend close to $4 billion, maybe more than that. I don't know. It's not finished. In fact, I looked at it the other day. I'm afraid Kevin will have to have an office next to me in the White House because that building's not going to be done. He's not going to be able to use that building for a long time. And, you know, he had a complaint. He said, I didn't realize this. He said, the saddest thing is they ripped down the best building. He said there was a building that had beautiful boardrooms that he used many times when he was there, that beautiful boardrooms and meeting rooms. It was so beautiful, the nicest in Washington. And he said, they ripped it down.
Go back.
And maybe they did that to save money, like the Gavin Newsom, the railroad, where they made it shorter in order to save money, but it's still 25 times over budget. But the worst I've ever heard is the railroad in California, and I think this might be worse. Think of it. I would have fixed that building, beautiful, quickly. 25 million would have been like a brand new building. I would have, all the ceilings would have been left, all those beautiful thick walls with gorgeous moldings would have been left. You're going to get a sheetrock ceiling, a sheetrock wall without insulation. They said, sir, insulation's not in the budget. Insulation costs you $100 a room. The whole thing is crazy, and they're at $4. I think it's going to cost more than $4 billion when it's finished.
But
it would somehow but Joe, somehow we have to find out how this can happen. It's not the first time. How does this happen? Did the contractor make $3.5 billion?
Right.
You know,
if the banking committee could take it over.
I can't imagine that Too Late is taking money on construction. I can't. But it's possible. But we have to find out, why is a job that should have cost $25 million costing billions and billions of dollars? You know, I built the hotel. It's now the Waldorf. I sold it to Waldorf, and it's now the Waldorf. I built it for $201 million. It's a bigger building than the federal, and it was hotel rooms with bathrooms and, you know, partitions, and it's much more expensive to build a hotel room than it is a nice empty office space, right? And I built that for $201 million. This now is 8 years ago or so, but think of it. This building, you look at it, it's a little building. It's over, I think it's going to cost over $400 billion. And here's the thing. It's going to be nothing compared to what it was. They spent $4 billion, and it's nothing compared to what it was. It was beautiful. It had beautiful ceilings. They were all destroyed. They took them down. I don't know why.
If the DOJ, though, if this goes forward with Department of Justice and it delays him being confirmed, Kevin Warsh, it's kind of counter.
Is there a disorder about people nonstop talking? Yeah, it's called like Longoria or something. I can't remember how to pronounce it. Logoria. Yeah, that's what it is. Logoria. Oh, okay.
Logoria.
That's the word.
Logoria. Logoria.
Yes, Logoria.
Logoria. Logoria.
It's just like a word I feel like we should be using more.
Logoria.
You know what I mean? Am I wrong or am I wrong? You're wrong. Thank you, Chatter. Logoria, is a communication disorder that causes excessive wordiness and repetitiveness, which can cause incoherency. Logoria is sometimes classified as a mental illness, though more commonly classified as a symptom of mental illness or brain injury. This ailment is often reported as a symptom of Wernicke's aphasia, where damage to the language processing center of the brain creates difficulty in self-centered speech. Occasionally, patients with Logoria may pronounce speech with normal prosody at a slightly fast speech rate. Included use neologisms, new words without clear derivation, words that bear no apparent meaning. In some extreme cases, the creation of new words are morphosyntactic constructions from the stream of unchecked nonsense, often enter under pressure, and they lack of self-correction that the patient may exhibit. And their circumlocution, the ability to talk without missing words, we may conclude that they are unaware of the grammatical errors they are making. Tell me what you do with the comb. What do I do with a comb? What do I do with a comb? Well, a comb is a utensil or some such thing that could be used for arranging or rearranging the hair on the head, both by men and by women. One could also make music with it by putting a piece of paper behind it and blowing through it. Sometimes it can be used in art, in sculpture, for example, to make a series of lines in soft clay. Usually made of plastic and usually black, though it comes in other colors. It is carried in the pocket or until it is needed. When it is taken out and used, then put back into the pocket. Is that what you had in mind? I cannot. They were throwing in the vocab in this, huh? Circumlocution. I was marble mouth for that one. I honestly think he might have this. Patients with Wernicke's aphasia often have fluent speech, and which is characterized by typical speech rate and effortless speech output. But the content may lack meaning or include incorrect or made up words. I honestly think he might have this.
Productive for what you're trying to do in terms of changing the MO of the Fed up to this point. So I'm just trying to look for an off-ramp to get for you.
Well, it is and it isn't, Joe. You have to find out why a thing like that could happen, because if you have hundreds of projects like that, very few are like this, but if you had hundreds of projects like that, you have to find out why that happens. I mean, because we obviously don't do it right. But, we have some great people in government that can do jobs. I build under budget, ahead of schedule. I'm doing a ballroom now. It's a much bigger job than that. And it's going to cost, depending on finishes, like $300 million. It's a much bigger job than that. It's ahead of schedule. And I have lawsuits every week from all these people, all the do-gooders that stop progress in our country.
But, I'm going to give Becky a chance, Mr. President, to get you to...
And you can have some extra time. I know my people said 20 minutes, but you can have some extra time.
All right.
Where he wants to be, chat, on TV blathering. Ooh. The first candidate that runs on... I'm sorry, chat, I had to stop myself. Whitest kids you know. Whitest kids you know. Whitest kids you know. I just imagine I just took the next 3 minutes to play that clip. Okay? Whitest kids you know. We need a whitest kids you know emote. Whitest kids you know. Whitest kids you know. Highly, highly illegal. Extremely illegal. What do I think of AOC saying no comment on Sakat? Well, okay, listen. I think Sakat seems chill. He's to my right. He's a tech executive guy, but he generally, he seems chill. Like, he's rich because he was like the first engineer on a tech company that blew up. Okay, he seems legitimately interested in most center-left social democratic policies. He's not a socialist. I think in general, he would probably be pretty good as a candidate. Okay, he's to my right, pretty significantly to my right. He seems chill. I don't know enough yet about the local area. I also think he might be the only one who has a chance of winning in that district that is actually left-wing. So for me, anytime someone's nice to Hassan, they get a lot more credit from me. I'll be completely honest with you, because that means they're at least smart enough to understand the new ecosystem. And if they are dependent upon our ecosystem, we can put more pressure on them. So that's kind of generally how I feel. It's part of the reason why I've defended Graham Plattner so much. Why do I defend Graham Plattner? Because Graham Plattner says, in large part, I got my mind changed by Michael Brooks. Michael Brooks was my brother. Okay, Michael Brooks was the best. And if somebody says my influence is Michael fucking Brooks, I'm gonna give them a lot more credit. And yeah, he said some cringe shit, but I'll be completely honest with you, chat. That stuff, people will say to me oh my God, he's a mass murderer and he served in the American imperialist military, and they have this breathless tone as if everyone doesn't know that. And it comes down to this. You have to ask yourself this question: what is worse? Somebody who took orders from the Epstein class as a dumb 20-year-old and then came back home and said, we need to stop these wars, or somebody who was a rich fucking ne'er-do-well, Nepo baby capitalist who would never risk their own ass over anything and who currently supports more wars, right? And people are trying to tell you, no, you should hate the guy who comes back and says no wars and allow the fucking Zionist who wants more wars to win. That is batshit crazy. It's batshit. It's stupid to me. It's not even an argument to me. It just doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. I will always 100% support the people that are saying fuck Israel. That is the primary contradiction of our moment. This is actually something that Mao said. Mao Zedong said you have to identify the primary contradiction. The primary contradiction in the world right now is Zionism. All other contradictions flow out of your position on Zionism. And if you can't recognize that Graham Plattner is an opponent to Zionism, then you're a fucking dope and you're useless to me. And I'm sorry, I'm never going to change this position until Graham Plattner becomes pro-Zionist, in which case I would say he's fucking horrible. Zionism is the primary contradiction that we're all facing. And Graham Plattner is an enemy to Zionism. So he's an ally to me. Now, that doesn't apply to outright and about Nazis arguing for Nazism or whatever the fuck. But he's out there saying good shit. And it's like, what do you want me to do? Whip the guy? What do you want me to do? You want me to conjure a magic world where he's not going to be the next senator from Maine? I'd rather the next senator from Maine be an anti-Zionist. The people of Maine have heard your complaints that he's a veteran, and they said they don't care. They like that he's an anti-Zionist who supports Medicare for all, who supports no Cold War with China, who supports America bringing the troops home and cutting the military budget. I'm sorry. I'm okay with that. Some Brit who's never going to come to Maine tells me to vote for Mills. I mean, they have like this, by the way, an Australian and a Brit telling you how pure they are because they hate Graham Plattner is very funny. It's like, get your own shit together. But they don't make videos on Britain because no one would watch. That's how I feel about Canadians making content on America, or Brits making content on America, or Australians making content on America. It's not that I don't want to stop them from doing it. Absolutely do it. But if your content is, let me tell you how the American left sucks for supporting the anti-Zionist, while you're in a puppet government and you never make any content about it, it screams grifter to me. I mean, I don't have a problem if you make American content once in a while as part of also making content about your own politics. But if you never make content about your own politics, that's fucking crazy. It's pretty wild that British politics let them yell at their parliament, but it's more boring than American politics. I mean, it's not. They have an amazing Green Party that's growing. But that Green Party grew because why? Because their left got purged. And the Green Party's not winning yet. They need all the help they can get. All right. I'm bored of the Trump shit. He's fucking boring, guys. I can't do 20 more minutes of this shit. I can't do 20 more fucking minutes of this shit. Bernie Sanders just posted this.
Thanks very much for joining me. In the midst of these crazy, unprecedented, and dangerous times, I want to say a few words about what I and other progressives have been up to recently. And frankly, it is a lot. First, some very good news. Just this last Thursday, Ana Lilia Mejia won a landslide victory to become the Congresswoman from the 11th District of New Jersey. Now, what was important about her victory is not just that
I'm not a Mejia fan, and I feel like she's out of touch in a lot of ways, but she's in an extremely Jewish district, and she will be like probably like the 20th most progressive person on Palestine in Congress. So I consider 2 cheers for Ana Lilia Mejia. I feel like she could be pressured. It is what it is. I'm not like super hyped about her by any means. And I'm concerned about this kind of like liberal Zionist strategy of like, yeah, you're right. No more military, but Israel's good, right? No. Too many Canadian Twitter accounts tweeting AOCIA and not mentioning the motion that the NDP has now. Listen, if you're a Canadian and you talk about American politics, you have to tweet about NDP 3 times for every time you talk about AOC. New rule.
Lilia is a strong progressive, a grassroots organizer, and someone who played a major role in my 2020 presidential campaign. That's important. But what's more important is that the district she won was not considered to be particularly progressive. In other words, what Ana Lilia's victory showed is that at a time of massive income and wealth inequality and deep discontent with status quo politics, our progressive analysis and progressive vision is gaining more and more traction in all parts of our society. In other words, we can win anywhere. So let me just thank Ana Lilia for her great campaign and thank many of you for the support that you gave her. Another important development. Last Wednesday, I and other progressives in the Senate took a major step forward in reversing one of the
NDP has a really good new leader, and he's based, and he fucking rules. And we need to talk about him more, but we're currently talking about America trying to do genocide on Iran, so it's been kind of a
and most dangerous aspects of American foreign policy. As many of you know, I have for several years been trying to stop our government from sending military aid to Israel, a nation which, under the leadership of right-wing extremist Benjamin Netanyahu, has committed genocide in Gaza, started an illegal and horrific war in Iran, and has been bombing civilian neighborhoods in Lebanon, should not be supported by U.S. tax dollars. Now, when we began this effort several years ago, the first resolution that I offered to stop U.S. military aid to Israel received only 11 votes in the Senate. The next resolution received 18 votes, followed by a resolution that won 27 votes. Last Wednesday, a resolution that I offered received 40 votes. 40 votes. over 80% of the Democratic caucus, an all-time high. We received no Republican support. The simple truth is that when working people are struggling to put food on the table and pay for housing and health care, they do not want billions of their hard-earned tax dollars to be spent on killing innocent people in the Middle East. And the Democratic establishment is, belatedly, to be sure, they are now catching on. Bottom line, we are making progress in this vitally important area, but much more needs to be done. We must continue pushing forward to stop these never-ending and illegal wars. We must end U.S. military aid to Israel. We are also making progress in another area of extraordinary consequence. Artificial intelligence and robotics are the most transformational technologies in the history of humanity. They are going to impact the lives of you and every other person in our country. And I got to tell you, Congress is way behind in terms of protecting the American people from the negative impacts these technologies will have. These revolutionary developments pushed by the wealthiest people in the world. We're talking about a handful of multi-billionaires who are pushing these technologies. These could result in the loss of tens of millions of jobs, could completely eviscerate our privacy, and negatively impact the education and mental health of our kids.
I personally don't think kids should be allowed to use AI. I'm kind of a Luddite. I feel like that school should be like a technology-free zone for the most part. I'm like completely I'm like the opposite of I'm the opposite of a Taylor Lorenz on this point. Like, I feel like you should walk in, turn in your phones, turn in your technology, and you should have to and you should do all your work and homework at school, right? And then you should go home, and then you leave that work. Like, if you write papers, you should write papers at school, right? You should write essays at school. You know, you should do the research at school. And then you should go home and just live your life. And then you go back, no homework. That's the way it should be. And you shouldn't have to be able to rely on AI. You should be able to rely on other stuff. You should know how to use the computer. Let's be honest. Children are going to be using a computer a ton at home anyway, you know? And so I'm not worried about them not knowing how to use the computer. Maybe I'm just completely crazy on this point. But Mike, I think tech education should be a much larger part of the curriculum. I agree with you. It should be in the computer class. There should be a technology class where you use technology in a structured environment where you learn skills. And there's you know what I mean? Computer, write my homework for me is what every child is now doing. Computer, answer quiz for me. That's what every child is now doing. I think that's probably bad for their brain. I'm a total Luddite. Even as I type on this fancy computer, I am admittedly addicted to tech. I could happily stop and be happy to analyze things like reading books and craft things with my hands. First of all, I'm old, and so I did that. And so what I still have those skills because I did it for 25 fucking years because there was no YouTube until I was 25 years old. So my brain developed. There wasn't social media until I was in my mid-20s, except for Facebook, which I didn't use much. Oh, I'm sorry, chat. I thought, when did YouTube become popular? 2008, right? It started in 2005, but when did it actually become popular? 2006? 2007? 2006? Okay, so I was in my mid-20s, all right? I was out of college. When YouTube became popular, I was out of college. Just so you want to understand that my brain is not rotted like yours. So, yes, I did do the things and read the books. And I'm not blaming you. I'm just saying that it's even worse now. Back then, you at least had to understand how a computer worked in order to use it. Millennials can still read and pay attention. Not really. I'm a pretty old millennial. You know what I mean? Most millennials are probably a little bit more brain rotted than me. And most Gen X's were poisoned by lead. So I'm in the sweet spot where I was born late enough so I avoided most of the lead poisoning, but early enough that I avoided much of the computer brain rot. I landed in the perfect 5-year period where The lead was out of the fucking gasoline, and yet we didn't have social media scroll addiction yet. Treasure trade. Oh my God. Ladies and gentlemen, we are 2.5 hours into the stream, and we have an opportunity of a lifetime. A 35% discount on subscriptions. If you gift more than 5 gift subs, they have a 35% discount that starts at level 2. You've unlocked 35% off of 5+ gifted subs. Yes! Red Edge, you got the discount, right? 92 here can confirm you and Hassan are my only brain rot. I doubt that. I mean, I'm addicted now. Clear Games, thanks for the 20 tier 1s. Red Edge Planet, thank you for the gifted subs. South Carolina Socialist, thank you. I'm addicted now. I'm staring at screens for 15 hours a day. It feels like, at least. You know, I stream for at least 5 hours, so there's like an hour before or after where I'm on the computer. So that's at least 6-7 hours a day, Monday to Friday, I'm streaming. Then if I watch any shows, look at my phone, or play a game, that's an easy 8 hours. So now I'm just as addicted as all of you. Google is showing the amount of people searching basic math is skyrocketing. I think it's due to AI. The number of people searching 10 times 10. Allied Trades, thank you for the 5 tier 1s. Ghost Dog, thank you for the 5. Ladies and gentlemen, Ultra Chroma just gifted 5. Right now, gifted subs are extremely discounted, 35% off. There's a lot of people here working paycheck to paycheck, parents of young children, college students, people on a fixed income because of retirement or disability. We're just regular people struggling to make ends meet. So if you want to support the stream, now is the time. Mellow Lemon Jello and Harmonious Cacophony and Fizzy Melange and D-Man Max 99. Thank you for the 10. All of those gifters. It's never going to be a better time to gift than right now. It's never going to be a better time to gift than right fucking now. I think there's a system that we have called cognitive offloading, I think is the term. And I do it too. And it scares me. Like it or not, our brains develop because, you know, our brains develop neuron connections on behaviors that require attention and effort. And so when we are consistently offloading basic tasks or basic cognitive tasks to things like AI, less energy will be dedicated to maintaining those connections because evolution created processes for pruning unnecessary energy expenditure. It's why you have to keep working out to stay strong. It's not that your body can't maintain the muscle cells. They just take energy. They take resources. And so unless your body is constantly being stimulated, they prune the muscles. So it's the same thing with cognitive ability. If you are not exercising your cognitive ability, then your body prunes unnecessary effort. If we could reverse this, by the way, this is unnecessary in our modern society because we have a surplus of energy, right? If I could take a pill and if I ever lifted weights, my muscles stayed at their peak development, that would be ideal, right? Presumably. Like imagine you could flip a switch and if you got stronger, you never lost that strength. You never atrophied. That would be insane. There's nothing biologically that prevents that. Unfortunately, from the laws of the universe that prevents that. But your body just doesn't maintain it. It allows those muscles to atrophy because, again, evolutionarily, it prunes unnecessary energy usage because, you know, more energy requires more food. Food is scarce. Bodies that don't prune die from starvation because they overburn. You talked about China's nuclear MSRs that a low-key plan to deceive me. I'll be pursuing a PhD starting this fall, researching structural materials used in these corrosive environments. Just make sure that whenever you create, just put me in your acknowledgments. Say Michael from Pennsylvania, aka Central Committee, is truly the font of all knowledge, and then we'll be good. No, but in all seriousness, thank you, chatter. That's good. That's amazing. Good luck. All right. Noir, thank you for the 13 subs. Clam O'Rix, thank you for the 10. Wensun, thank you for the 10. Blade the King, thank you for the 5. Bombs Away Boy, thank you for the 525 bits. The Anti-Corporatist, thank you for the 5. D-Man Max, thank you for the 10. I think we're all caught up. If you gifted subs and I didn't thank you, yell at me. Controlling cellular sentience is currently underway in China. Oh, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. If we could direct our bodies to do stuff like I know that I don't really pay too much attention to it, but from what I understand, there is like what they call the Methuselah research, which is just like anti-aging research, right? Like, why do we age? Now, a lot of people will just say, well, we age because we age, and then they do a thought-terminating cliche and they move on. But there's no reason that you have to age, right? Like, your cells could just be, all your body is a collection of trillions of cells. So if those cells are, if their genetic information is maintained and they duplicate successfully, then you will not age. But there are structures that break down over time for various processes that result in aging, right? So presumably we could find some sort of like mechanism to either extend the aging process or reverse the aging process. Now, like telomeres is an example that like people will talk about the various metabolic and genetic processes that result in aging, but those are not none of those processes are like mandatory to exist. None of those processes like infuse life into you. And there are some organisms that don't have any one of those specific metabolic processes you're discussing. There are organisms that don't suffer from them that are currently alive. So this is just me talking about it. I'm not saying we have actual research as far as I'm aware. That's just like, the process of aging is a metabolic genetic process. What do you mean by mandatory? What I mean is telomeres don't have to shorten because there's no law of the universe that says the telomeres must get shorter, right? Why do human beings live 70 years and dogs live 10, right? Like that's not a law of the universe, right? That the biology of a dog has to die after 10 years. Like it is a specific arrangement of biological facts, none of which are fixed and frozen. The UK banned smoking. Wait, what? UK Parliament agrees to lifelong smoking ban for those born after 2008. What? That's so funny. Keir Starmer is living up to the hype. All right, chat. I want to have we've been talking about randomly talking about shit. I want to talk about this. Now, I don't know if you saw this, but Natalie ContraPoints, Destiny Orbiter Natalie, has gone after Hassan recently. And let me just tell you, chat, it's fucking embarrassing. If you are currently subscribed to ContraPoints or you're a member of her Patreon, please cancel. Can you fucking cancel? She doesn't make videos anymore. I'm so tired of these lazy fucking bread tubers that make one shitty video in their apartment every 2 years. And then they're so desperate for they're such a self-aggrandizing fucking narcissist that they see Hassan Piker on the timeline because, he makes content every day. And they get all up in their feelings about it. And they start developing some weird Hassan derangement syndrome. H-bomb catching trace. I'm sorry, guys, but if you make a video every 2 years, that's fucking cringe. You're not making a feature film, okay? It's you in your fucking garage. Like, come the fuck on, man. Guys, he made a video 5 years ago, which I exhaled through my nose. Give this guy money for the rest of his life. And by the way, I like H-bomber guy, but he's been pretty quiet on the Gaza genocide, Kind of weird. Sean is the best of the bread tubers. And so the ContraPoints now, if you weren't aware, I've hated ContraPoints for a long time. I've been now I originally gave ContraPoints so much grace. I found out she was a former Destiny Orbiter, and I tried to the beginning of your content. I tried to give her grace. Right? I tried to give ContraPoints grace, but now she's come out and basically she tried to say that the anti-Zionist protests, the anti-genocide protests, were to blame for the Democrats losing. And she put out this embarrassingly cringe statement on Reddit. Now, why did she put that statement on Reddit and not on her main channel? Why did she not take this script, sit down in her chair, put on a Victorian gown, and post it on her YouTube? Why did she just sit down and go, I need to talk to you guys about how bad the anti-Zionist left is because it's causing me distress, and make a video? Because she's a fucking coward. And she knows that if she actually put her face and her reputation and her brand behind being Zionist, it would fall. millions of people would be absolutely disgusted. So that's why this needs to be talked about, right? Now, who is ContraPoints? I'll show you. Got started on YouTube with, right? Islam, reform or get out. ContraPoints made her start on the internet making anti-Islam extremist content. She fundamentally agrees with American imperialism in the Middle East. Islam, reform or get out. I guess you didn't change your opinions as much as I thought. I was very naive. I thought you had changed. Much of the online left spent all of 2024 single-mindedly focused on Palestine and the complicity of Democratic politicians in sending aid to Israel. This campaign had the following effects. That is not true. This is absolutely not the case. In fact, I was famously very willing to support Kamala Harris if she said she would force a ceasefire in Gaza. I didn't say she had to dismantle Israel. I didn't say she had to sanction Israel. All I wanted her to say is, I will change policy from Biden. That's all I asked for. And a couple small concessions to the left that wasn't just enacting Trump's 2016 immigration platform and wanting to fight wars with Iran and China. And she offered none of it. In fact, she spat in our faces by refusing to even allow a Palestinian who endorsed her to speak at the convention. It may have slightly contributed to the re-election of Trump, guarantee that the U.S. will put no diplomatic pressure on Netanyahu for at least 4 years and make a protest against Israel both riskier and less effective. Hey, dumbass. They put no diplomatic pressure on Netanyahu. We just covered that earlier. Trump is also, incidentally, a menace to me and basically everyone I care about. A perfectly enlightened being would feel no bitterness about this, but I do. So in other words, you don't care about Palestinian children being murdered, but I'm supposed to care about you? You don't care about this? From UNICEF? United Nations? More than 50,000 children reportedly killed or injured in the Gaza Strip. This is from a month and a half ago. On Friday, we saw videos of the bodies of burnt, dismembered children from Al Najir family being pulled from the rubble of their home in Khan Yunis. Of 10 siblings under 12, only one survived with critical injuries. Early Monday, we saw images of a small child trapped at a burning school in Gaza City. That attack in the early hours of the morning reportedly killed 31 people, including 18 children. And I don't know if you guys just saw the recent coverage, but apparently Israel has been training dogs to rape Palestinian prisoners in Khan Yunis. Tar condemns the Israel's prison's use of dogs objects to rape Palestinians, calls for U.S. sanctions on Ben-Gvir. The Council on American Islamic Relations, the nation's largest Muslim civil rights and advocacy organization, today called for the United States to impose sanctions on National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir and other members of the Israeli government responsible for the apartheid state's prisons after a Palestinian journalist and other kidnapped by Israel recounted details of sexual assaults, including the use of various objects and dogs to sodomize them. Now, this has just been further reported on 3 days ago by Dropsite News. An Israeli analyst confirms accounts of Palestinians being raped and sexually assaulted using dogs at Israeli detention sites, citing 2 guards he spoke with at the Sid Taiman torture prison. One witnessed it and said it was too awful to describe. The other said he heard about it from others and believed it was true. This happened. This is still happening. The evidence is overwhelming. Documented cases by various human rights groups below. Now, I could get into it more, but I want you to understand something, that this is what Natalie Wynn is defending. This is what ContraPoints is defending, right? She wants us to stop talking about it because it's bad vibes for Kamala Harris, who lost 2 years ago, right? Or lost a year and a half ago. We're supposed to cover up. They go out there and they spread false accusations of mass rapes and child murder. And Israel actually does mass rapes and systematic rape torture and murders children by the tens of thousands. And Natalie Wynn wants you to stop talking about it. Now, Hassan Piker and myself, we have been labeled anti-Semites. I now have to deal with people calling me anti-Semitic for the rest of my life because I stood against Netanyahu, because I stood against this genocide, because on October 7th, I saw what was coming. On October 9th, I called it out as an attempt to commit genocide. I now have to listen to people calling me anti-Semitic for the rest of my life because I stood against this. Natalie Wynn stood silent. Doesn't matter how many times I condemn anti-Semitism. It's no matter how many times I create a distinction between the Israeli state and the Jewish religion. I will be called anti-Semitic forever. And just this week, just so we're clear, Biden's advisor came out and said he was right. I support Trump's invasions and attacks on Iran. Is it actually working? Okay. Here is Biden's advisor. This happened yesterday.
In July 2024, Secretary Blinken claimed Iran was 1 or 2 weeks away from having enough fissile material breakout capacity to eventually make a weapon if Iran had decided to do so. There were indirect negotiations that the Biden administration did, but it went nowhere. So when President Trump argues that he did when no other president would, is it just simply that the bill was coming due and it fell on his watch?
I do think there's a certain element to that. And that's why I was...
Amos Hochstein is one of Biden and Kamala Harris's key advisors on Israel, former IDF soldier, by the way. Now, it's not because I wanted to be able to support Kamala Harris. I got whipped up into a cringe frenzy over Walz that people remind me all the time is when Walz got appointed, many of us on the left saw that as a signal that she was going to start changing her position on Israel. And we got ahead of our skis and we got excited. We're like, oh my God, that was the one candidate who didn't shit talk the uncommitted movement. Walz was the one candidate who said they had legitimate points and should be heard. We thought, wow, maybe she'll make some gestures toward the pro-Palestinian movement. And all the way until the DNC, the last day of the DNC, we harbored that hope, that delusional hope, because we wanted to believe that there would be some sort of way out of this genocidal horror that we were trapped in from Joe Biden. And what did she do the last day? She kicked out Hassan Piker, who had been covering the entire DNC. They announced they wouldn't be having any pro-Palestinian speakers, even ones who had endorsed her. Even Palestinians who had endorsed her, they wouldn't give them a floor. And she went up and did her acceptance speech calling for the most lethal military and that there would be no daylight between her and Joe Biden. She sent Richie Torres, the virulent anti-protester AIPAC stooge to Michigan with Bill Clinton, who said that Judea and Samaria were promised to fucking Israel. He went to Michigan, paraded around with Liz Cheney, who was one of the architects of the Iraq war. This is what people don't know about Liz Cheney. It's not just that she is the daughter of Dick Cheney. She worked in the Department of Defense as a key advisor that led us to the Iraq war. She wasn't just Dick Cheney's daughter that we disliked. She was an active participant in the lies that led to the Iraq war.
Supportive of President Trump joining in June to take the strikes that we had thought internally in the Biden administration we may have to take if there was a second term. We thought that the spring, summer of 2025 was probably, we may have to be there in the same place. And we did.
So here it is. Biden's top Israel advisor saying they would have started a war with Iran had they won. I had, honest to God, not even said this myself. I had felt like this is probably an exaggeration. This is probably unfair to Biden and Harris to say this. And then their advisors come out and say, yeah, we would have probably done the war on Iran too. We did war games. We were planning on it.
We did war games. We did some practice runs on what it would look like to look into it. And because that may have had to happen under our watch as well. But he said we obliterated their nuclear program. The question then is not about what he did in June. This war we were in now did not attack the nuclear facilities again. Mm-hmm. This was not about the nuclear. So the question now becomes, can you do a deal with the Iranians? And the maximalist positions that both sides have are right now very far apart, despite all the rhetoric that we're almost there or we are there, but if we're not there, we'll bomb the hell out of them.
In July.
And so that's the reality. So if you're sitting there harboring some fantasy of some Kamala Harris presidency, you need to wake up that it would have been terrible too. And honestly, it's over now. It's over now. They lost because they were pro-Israel warmongers and they offered nothing to the American people that they wanted. And they lost to Donald Trump for a second time. But we have freedom now. We don't have to do this shit again. We can support candidates that we actually believe in. We don't have to make these ridiculous fucking compromises anymore because it's over. It's over. They've lost to Trump twice. It's fucking over. The question is, where do we go from here? And I'm sorry, we need the left. And we need people that are going to go and clean up this government and not do what Barack Obama did, not do what Joe Biden did, and just move on and forget the past and let all the criminals get away with their crimes. We need a left that's actually going to clean up this country and deal with the problems of the oligarchy directly. And that's why ContraPoints hates Hassan.
Conversation that took place with the Pod John as well. I think you guys will appreciate it, especially considering that a lot of the liberals that watch Pod Save America, once again, have reacted in the exact same way that they reacted every single time I've been on the Pod Johns, which is excitement. They reacted with excitement, frustration for the way that the Democrats speak right now on issues. I don't know what CNN is talking about. This guy seems pretty all right. We do need people to be more aware of who he actually is, trying to take what little we actually have away. Significant improvement over Cory Booker, exactly the kind of conversation we need. Honestly, this was a very good interview, much better and much more coherent than I expected, given the way some media is talking about Hassan. Appreciated the substantive focus on the issues instead just the controversy. After listening to Hassan for an hour speak clear and concise reasoning, now I understand why the AIPAC wing of the Democratic Party would just say 99% of the party fear and attack him. I've been casually aware of Hassan Piker and heard about some of his controversial comments. This is the first time I've listened to a more in-depth interview with him and entered it with an open mind. The perspectives Hassan offered helped me to expand my understanding of the issues between Israel and Palestine. I wasn't sure who Hassan Piker was until Dems started attacking him. After I listened to Kyle Kuczynski talk about him, I checked him out and I found that I agree with almost everything he says. Thanks, Dems, for putting him on my radar. This is, as Hassan Iber Productions says, is why they're desperate to try and cancel me. When regular people watch him outside of 20-second clips, this is what happens. Always, okay? Always. And of course, on the orbit, people who actually watched it.
Destiny, Centrism fan account, Neera Tanden, Ethan Wolf, Hen Mazig, and Little Baby Gandhi. Hadutfa nationalist, casteist, racist, fake socialist, Destiny orbiter, failed alcoholic, Joe Biden sycophantic, centrist Democrat failure, anonymous guy named Centrism fan account who never ever says anything about centrists that are good. If you're such a centrist fan account, can you ever post a time that you really like what a centrist is doing? Because all they do is capitulate to the right. Ethan Wolf is literally a Republican. Hen Mazig is a propagandist for Israel. And Destiny is a revenge pornographer, Israel propagandist, war crimes encourager, encouraged the mass killing of BLM protesters. He supports Kyle Rittenhouse. Defended, quote, ethical child pornography, which cannot exist, and he's a fucking disgusting pedophile for even suggesting it. And said that if you sexually assault a child, it doesn't mean you're a pedophile. He said that in a debate. These are the people that we hate, that hate Hassan Piker. These are the people that you want to have defending. You think losing these people is going to hurt anyone? Also, he had CSAM on his computer from a 17-year-old that he admitted. So, like, these are the people that are trying to police the Democratic Party from Hassan Piker.
Interview, go, wow, this is fucking awesome. I had no idea what this guy was about. And now that I've actually listened to him without this ridiculous filter, even in a somewhat contentious environment where, you know, my statements are being called in to account, right? There is a little bit of accountability there. It's not like John Favreau is just like letting me run away with whatever I'm saying and doing. All of a sudden, it's a lot more fucking reasonable, okay? These guys are not equipped to deal with subversive mask-on radicals and have done more to sane-wash this lunatic views than probably any other alternative media platform. Ezra Klein argues that we don't have to limit discourse to people we deem acceptable, then does somersaults trying to make Hassan Piker seem more acceptable. As much as he's a never Trumper, he's also a never Democrat too. Piker's a loser. His ideas are losers. So is his politics. Notice how the people that refuse to engage me and the ideals that I represent and fight for are the ones who are the most active in disparaging what this movement is, what this movement represents. Interesting. Or I think we should all just pay less attention to him, not the president, the other one. Maybe we lived out a little too hard. Let's go back to talking about getting Liz Cheney for a round 2 on the campaign trail. What is this? Your wiki is currently getting more views than Rogan's. Since March 24th, Hassan the Hun's Wikipedia page has seen more daily traffic than Joe Rogan's every single day.
See, Sam, it's child sex abuse material. That's what Destiny admitted to, having child sex abuse material of a 17-year-old girl on his computer. And he said he was holding on to it in case he, quote, needed it. Whatever the fuck that means.
Oh, nice. Oh, hell yeah. Let's go. The problem is, once again, in the old era, in the old age of the media, if I was some college activist or if I was just like some guy with no platform whatsoever, then yes, most things that you heard about me would be from the gatekeepers, right? You would just hear what Dana Bash had to say about me. You'd just hear about Jake Tapper. You would just hear what Mark Levin had to say about me. And that's the only information that you would be able to make up your mind on, right? Like you would be like, this is the only thing I know about this guy. He seems terrible. In the new media environment, it doesn't work that way. I sometimes have either a competitive or sometimes a larger audience than these guys do, right? So people can hear from me directly. So it doesn't fucking work that way. That's kind of what Ezra Klein was talking about. The through line in the freakouts over Rogan and Piker is snobbery and nostalgia. The GOP has already embraced new media, but many liberals still want manor mavens, legacy media gatekeepers who went to Yale and tell them what is acceptable to discuss.
Well, they went to Yale because their parents were fucking executives at Shell. This is who they want to tell you what is acceptable liberalism. Okay? This is who they want you to listen to. Ross Douthat, who went to Hampden Hall, which I think costs like $60,000 a year tuition. Oh yeah, there it is. I'm sorry, Chad, I exaggerated. $53,100. That's the tuition at Hampden Hall. That's where our friend Ross Douthat went to college or went to high school. And then he got to where did he go to college? Harvard. So man, I wonder what his father was a partner at a New Haven law firm, and his great-grandfather was a governor. So this is who they want you to tell, the Nepo baby, trust fund baby motherfuckers. They're going to tell you what acceptable politics is. Privilege, Harvard, and the education of the ruling class. That's you, motherfucker! And they're mad that people like me or Hassan can get out there and talk to people about policies and talk to them about history and make our arguments on the merits and have you understand a political world is greater than what Ross Douthat, $53,000 a year private school Nepo baby loser is wringing his hands and telling you that unions are too radical.
Yeah. Why does ContraPoints hate you so much? Is it just because you called out her bad Israel take she had? I'm not a fan of her, but she hates you for real. Yeah, she's just leaned into being a total defender of the Democratic Party, has like some right-wing points on that as well. She was quiet for the longest time on the issue of Israel and then chose to speak out. Very critical of the pro-Palestine.
I mean, the reason why she hates Hassan, it's not that complicated. She's a Destiny fan and always has. She's a DGGer. She has been for 9 years ago, chatting with YouTuber ContraPoints. And what did she do? You know, in my video, I talk about it, which is, what was she saying in that video, that conversation? Here's a clip. How Islam is not compatible with the West.
And so you're kind of put in this very difficult, this bind, right? Where if you're a little too Pollyanna-ish about Islam, then you're on the threshold of like kind of like essentially like being an alibi to a very like backward and patriarchal religion.
Is that one of your old? And Destiny has said that he's an Islamophobe. Destiny has said that he supports the genocide of Palestinians. Destiny has said that, well, first of all, he said that a civilian carrying a white flag who was shot and murdered by the IDF on their way to try to rescue family from a combat area was farming TikTok clips. And he has said he's Islamophobic. And none of these liberals have any problem with Destiny. In fact, so revenge pornographer, like all these crimes he's committed, he's currently in litigation for revenge porn right now. He has admitted to targeting teenage girls with mental illnesses to sexually exploit. And these people have no problem with that guy, right? ContraPoints has no problem with Destiny. None whatsoever. That's crazy to me. But Hassan is out there campaigning with AOC and Bernie Sanders and Ilhan Omar and Zohran Mamdani. You could see the works that we perform in politics, who we align with and what they stand for. And they're all amazing, good people. You think that maybe if you were a fair-minded social democrat, you might look at that and go, huh, I may not agree with their takes on X, Y, and Z thing, but in politics, they seem to be working with the people that are actually solving the problems that our society faces, or at least have a plan to do so.
Palestinian wing of the party literally, I think it was 2 days before there was this massive sea change because there was tremendous amounts of coverage about Israel doing a famine in Gaza. Like, it was unbelievable. 2 years in, she didn't speak about Israel at all. No peep. Her fans were constantly demanding she say something. Then she went out to Reddit, which is the most, at the time, the most pro-Israel platform that she could find, and released this massive statement. The statement itself was flawed. I guess that's the, best, that's the nicest thing I can say about it, right? The statement itself was flawed, and it basically put the blame on the pro-Palestinian activists and the advocates and the people that were dominated, people who were arrested for advancing this cause, for speaking truth to power, punished relentlessly for it, right? She basically said, oh, you're showing these atrocities. It's like, and it's, making people feel bad. And it also hurt the Democratic Party's chances of winning. It was this ridiculous statement. And the timing of it was so fucking bad. The timing of it was so bad. Like, if she had just kept quiet, she probably would not have received so much backlash. But not only did she, come out with this ridiculous statement, she did it right before there was like unlimited coverage on Israel doing a famine in a way that was impossible to ignore. So I think, content creators like this, I myself am not, outside of this group either. Nobody likes to be yelled at. Nobody likes to be told that they're fucking wrong, right? And she was inundated with unlimited statements about how fucking wrong she was. That probably hardened her position. And she, for some weird reason, decided that I was like the primary critic of her statement. I think it's an Ethan Klein thing where it's like, oh, it can't be my own statements being reflected on by my own community that I've cultivated, many of which are anti-Zionist and on the side of truth and justice here, on the side of the Palestinians, getting mad at me. It must be some outsider that's pushing them to criticize me. Not comparing Natalie to Ethan, please. It's true, though. I say this as someone who's collaborated with her, who's hung out with her, who was shocked by her position on the issue of Israel to begin with. Like, I was pretty open about it. And my commentary on her statement was much nicer, much nicer than many others. My expectation.
And you could go back and by the way, if you don't know what he's talking about, you should go back and watch my takedown of it, because it's her fucking her argument was, I would call it nihilistic. It was evil. It was evil. It was like, hey, there's a genocide going on and it's being done by the Democrats, and I hate the way that you guys are making me feel for supporting a genocidal party. That was basically the argument. The argument is the Palestinians are also, the argument also argued, and this is why I'd say it's evil. She also basically argued the Palestinians are finished. They're a lost cause. And so fighting for them is actually evil because they're a lost cause and they're going to die. And so you're wasting our resources that we could be using for me. That's basically what she said. And so when I read it, I made a 30-minute takedown video about how, and I went through it point by point, line by line, and ripped it apart. Why the hell is she mad at people calling out Kamala for being pro-genocide instead of being mad at Kamala? Because she thinks that Palestinians should be exterminated. It's easier for her to accept Palestinian extermination than the idea the Democratic Party would concede anything to the left. All she had to do was make the statement, Israel is committing a genocide and I oppose it and it makes me angry. But she doesn't. She doesn't oppose it. That's the whole point. She thinks opposing it is a problem that needs to be solved. That's why she hates Hassan. She blames Hassan for online left spaces opposing Israel's genocide. Can you imagine how dumb you have to be to believe that? She also complained about the left sharing images of Gaza as though hundreds of journalists didn't give their lives to get those images and videos out. It wasn't even journalists. It's regular Palestinians filming their own genocide. It's like, imagine Natalie Wynn complaining and saying that it's wrong for you to show videos of Jews being genocided in the Holocaust because you might undermine FDR's election campaign.
Was that she would be the last person to do this because she's actually smart. It was genuinely a surprise because Ethan Klein is a fucking idiot, you know, like he doesn't know shit about politics. He's just responding to whatever he sees on his timeline, whatever is presented to him in his subreddit. She thinks you're a revcom, so I don't think she knows that much. Wait, what? You just gave him material for his next 6 hour podcast, buddy? Okay, whatever. I don't give a shit. What's he gonna do? Fucking complain about? Is he gonna cancel Ezra Klein now? You know, King Lib. He's gonna be like.
Here's the thing. Hassan gave that explanation of why she hates him, but the truth is she's a Destiny fan and has been for decades, or for a decade now. And so her hatred, she made multiple long, friendly chats with Destiny, you know, and it is what it is. Unfortunately, this one doesn't seem to have transcripts for some reason. Damn, I hope Trump doesn't attempt a genocide in Cuba, because then you'd have to wait 2 years to say a single word about it. Source tells me the leftist influencers got out in time. Please God. Next, we're going to war with Cuba. Watch what happens. Now, here's what I would say. Here's what I would say to Natalie. The reason why, one of the major reasons why that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris lost to Donald Trump is because they maintained his sanctions on Cuba. And their maintenance of the sanctions on Cuba caused Cuba to have a massive economic crisis, which led to a huge migrant wave of Cubans trying to escape the economic catastrophe that Joe Biden carried on. Similarly, Joe Biden continued the sanctions that Biden put on Venezuela, which had the same effect. So millions of people surged to the American border to escape the economic sanctions and targeting and acts of war that Joe Biden placed on those countries. If Joe Biden had just continued Barack Obama's policies the moment he got in office, both Venezuela and Cuba would not have had the same economic crises, and millions of refugees would not have flowed to the border, and the so-called refugee crisis would not have occurred. And so the large influx of desperate economic migrants, which strained the capacity of the United States social safety net, which was also being cut by Biden's cuts following the end of the COVID pandemic, that would have not happened. We would have had a different political environment. So his bellicose foreign policy in Latin America, continuing on from Donald Trump, led to the political conditions which fed his defeat. We also wouldn't have had as much inflation, because if we had access to trade with Venezuela, there would have been a flow of oil from Venezuela that would have helped offset the cuts that were required when the Nord Stream pipeline was covertly bombed by Ukraine and Europe levied sanctions against Russian energy as a response to their illegal invasion of Ukraine. So because we were sanctioning Venezuela, oil prices and gas prices rose dramatically, helping feed inflation. So all of those crises were the results of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's bellicose foreign policy. Now, you're right to say maybe it wasn't as bellicose as maybe it's not as bellicose as Donald Trump's now is. But Natalie, I don't know if you know this, it made the conditions worse in the country, which led to their own defeat. So if they weren't so right-wing, they would have lost to a fascist. Fucking asshole.
Folks, it's Monday. We're live. It's Monday, April 20th, 420. Blaze it. 420, blaze it, ladies and gentlemen. We're live, and I hope everyone's having a fantastic one, because today's a beautiful day. Today's a wonderful day. It is 68 degrees and sunny here in California, Los Angeles, on stolen Tongva land. We're coming to you live. Woo!
Oh, he's doing land acknowledgements now? I didn't know Hassan was doing land acknowledgements.
Damn, Trump campaign mentioned you. Democrat Senate primary. Michigan
I never see the beginning of the stream, because, you know, I'm streaming.
Between a radical leftist aligned with Hassan Piker and a theater kid who thinks she has McMentum, the entire bench is cringe. Okay, you can't on the one hand call me a terrorist and then on the other hand be like, he's cringe. It's one or the other.
Iran is not sending a delegation to Islamabad until the U.S. naval blockade is lifted. Now we're talking. That's how you do it. And look at that. Oil prices just rose $5. Iran should make demands and then refuse negotiations until their demands are met. And that'll cause the stock market to go down and oil prices to go up. And the higher oil prices go up and the more the stock market goes down, the more pressure will be on Trump. I almost said Hassan, to end the war. Okay, where the fuck did I drag the Hassan video that I was just watching? God damn it.
Am I scary? Am I a dangerous radical, or am I cringe? You on that Trump radar? GG's? Yeah, it's gonna happen eventually. Let's be real.
Is there a Kalshi bet about Hassan being mentioned by Trump? Because I feel like that's got to be it. There's no way it's underpriced at this point.
I mean, get ready for it. It's gonna happen at some point. It's I don't know when it will happen, but it will most likely happen. And when it does, my life will probably change for the worse. Okay, Trump's Truth Social post in his washed era not going to hit the same. Yeah, that's true. Oh my God. Wait, what? Trump says he's not controlled by Israel. I didn't see this one. And if Iran's new leaders regime change are smart. Israel never talked me into the war with Iran. The results of October 7th added to my lifelong opinion that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon did. I watch and read the fake news pundits and polls in total disbelief. 90% of what they say are lies and made up stories, and the polls are rigged just as much as the 2020 election was rigged. Just like the results in Venezuela, which the media doesn't like talking about, the results in Iran will be amazing. And if Iran's new leaders, regime change, are smart, Iran can have a great and prosperous future. Oh my God. God, he is in his washed era. He's chopped. He's chopped and he's unk. Also, good luck convincing people that Israel doesn't control you, okay, or your cabinet after you literally came out of the gate swinging with the Israel is the reason why we had to bomb Iran. It's not going to happen. You know what I mean? Oh my God. And he keeps writing these long ass fucking Truth Social posts. He's so fucking washed, dude. He's washed as hell. WAPO investigated Nick Fuentes' super chats. Yeah, I saw it. This motherfucker makes just off of super chats alone like hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. Pretty crazy. It is kind of unbelievable how much money this guy makes. But hey guys, it's fine. He's not a socialist. So, I'm sure all of the quote unquote leftists who constantly yell at me will not have an issue with this because he's not a socialist, and also he's funny. Sometimes he says things that are funny where he like yells at Nazis in his audience, and that's really funny for everybody, and then they highlight that stuff. Had someone tell me you were a Mossad agent yesterday, so that was fun. Yeah. It sucks because like no one can be fucking objective or normal about the space that I occupy in this otherwise unbelievably reactionary landscape. Encountered anti-communist European who hates you, fun stuff. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of those as well. Sources tell me the leftist influencers got out in time. This is literally a white supremacist Stu Peters. Trump, next we're going to go to war with Cuba. Watch what happens. I'm lost for words at this point, says white supremacist Stu Peters. Natalie Wynn, ContraPoints, quote retweets this guy, says sources tell me the leftist influencers got out in time. Please God. This information tracker says Korea, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Indonesia, Nicaragua, El Salvador, Guatemala, and now Cuba, yet another country yearning for liberal democracy, only to be destroyed by brutal Hassanism. Thank you, ContraPoints, for speaking out. We can't keep letting him destroy the countries. I don't know what
See, the thing is, like, liberals are just conservatives who hate conservatives, right? So Natalie is mad at the leftist influencers because they went and directly opposed the American government, right? Now, obviously, the actions of individuals or small groups compared to the most powerful state in the world, obviously it pales in comparison, which is why, by the way, I want to control the American state. The best thing that could ever happen for the left would be for the left to control the American state. Now, it wouldn't instantaneously destroy all of the contradictions. It would be a contradiction to have a left-wing party in control of the empire. Obviously, it would be a contradiction, but that would heighten other contradictions, and it would give more opportunity for the left everywhere. So that's why I believe in doing it. And the thing about liberals like Natalie is they're mad that Hassan is pointing out their ineffectiveness in effectuating change. And they're really mad at him for actually taking concrete steps in the real world to try to change things for the better. Millions of Cubans are suffering because of American blockade, and Natalie Wynn is heaping scorn on the few Americans that get off their fat fucking ass and go do something. And I can't imagine anything that's more contemptible than that. Even if, and I'm going to say something that's going to be, I want you to quote me on this. Even if people went to Cuba for partially self-interested reasons, right? Like they wanted credibility for being a leftist anti-imperialist, or they wanted attention. If that was part of their motivation, I don't care. If somebody does the right thing, and some of their motivations for doing the right thing are, I'll be considered a good person, who cares? The question is, what are they doing in the world? Are they doing good or are they doing ill? They're doing good, but their motivations are not 100% pure. Who gives a fucking shit? Who cares? They're doing the right thing. It's a pathetic loser shit. Who the fuck are you? And I'll tell you something, chat. If you ever actually do something in the real world to help people, if you help people asking for nothing, and you see someone who's also doing the right thing, but they kind of want to be praised for it, you're like, thank God they're here. Somebody else is doing the right thing. And you will give them the praise they seek, because there's so many desperate people that need help, and so many people doing nothing. So when somebody comes out and starts doing a good thing, but it's partially because they want to be thought of as a good person, you're like, thank God you're here. Thank you for helping. Whatever it takes to get people that are marginal and that are interested in helping, but they're not quite there. If being considered a good person gets them off their fucking ass to actually start helping people, good. I like rewarding people for doing the right thing. That's how you get more of it. Liberals believe in incentives up until you give somebody an incentive to do the right thing. Now suddenly they consider it to be beneath them. Now suddenly an incentive to do the right thing is bad. Incentives should only exist to make people do the wrong thing, right, Natalie?
Fuck's wrong with her? I don't know what happened. I genuinely don't know what the fuck happened. It's so
Adepanada also only went to Cuba to one-up Assad. Adepanada has fallen into the anti-Assad pipeline. And it's the same. It's called being controlled by your algorithm. It's called audience capture via algorithmic control. If you're not very intelligent or bright and you go and start making content for YouTube, you get dragged. If you allow the maximizing what the algorithm wants in the moment over all other considerations, you will fall down the path to loser shit every time. The reason why Hassan and I continue to exist and grow is because we are not audience captured and we're not algorithmically captured. I had these positions when I had 150 viewers. My positions are based on my analysis, which comes from my reason and from the information that is coming to me and my experiences. It's not based on what I think you guys want to hear. I don't give a shit, quite frankly. Now, I will talk about stuff that is relevant. I will engage in the discourse. I'm not completely a nerd to that, but I say what I say because it's the right thing. And that's just the way it goes. And I'm not scared of you guys getting mad at me. I'm really not scared of you guys getting mad at me for doing the right thing. I'm scared of me doing the wrong thing and losing your trust, which is the only thing that I'm worried about, is my own fallibility, right? Which I am. And sometimes I occasionally fuck up or go too far or get emotional. I'm a human being. I'm not a machine, you know? I still have the ability to be fallible.
Strange to behave like this. I guess, I mean, you know, once a Islamophobic sex pestiny orbiter, always a Islamophobic sex pestiny orbiter. Yeah, I don't know if it's like the Clintonite brainworms or if it's just like not taking criticism well. She equated you to a wife beater the other day as well. She's gone off the deep end. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck's wrong with her. I hope she is... You know, I hope she's doing all right. I wish her well. She has.
I mean, by the way, this is why I'm different than Hassan. But it's good that Hassan exists. I'm different than Hassan, but it's good why Hassan exists, because I like being the guy who says the truth. I like being the attack dog, and Hassan can be the wide end of the funnel. I like being the place where people get whipped into shape and be a little bit more aggressive. And I like that Hassan is the wide end of the funnel that is always trying to give people the benefit of the doubt. It's called good cop, bad cop. We need both. One approach is never correct. You need a multiplicity of approaches. So I like that Hassan is like this. But I also like the fact that Hassan is supportive of those of us with different strategies. Chatting with YouTuber ContraPoints, and just so you know, chat, it wasn't a one-time thing. Destiny and ContraPoints are, I would say they're friends. They also did a conversation about transracialism with ContraPoints.
Hello. What's up, my dude? How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. Are you excited for this conversation?
Immediate N-word in the chat. Immediate N-word in the chat.
Started what I like to call J.K. Rowling posting on the timeline. I don't want to be too mean, but like the vibe and the attitude of her posts remind me of the same kind of like hyper focus and brain rot, only demonstrated by the Harry Potter author herself. Live long enough on the timeline and you turn into a villain. What did you do to help Cuba?
Only if you're mentally weak and unmoored. The older I get, the more pathetic I find people that cannot, that, you know, this is why you need to ground yourself in thought and not just your own sentiment and your own emotions. That leads you to become a Brianna Joy Gray, a Jimmy Dore, you fall down these, a bad empanada. You fall down these like pathways where you stroke your fucking ego and you allow your ego to dominate your positions and you rationalize back what your ego is pushing you to do. I take all sorts of positions that involve ego injury. If I realize that what I'm doing, if I realize my ego gets ahead of my fucking skis, I will say, nope, I was wrong about that. Kat Abou-Ghazaleh is a perfect example. I let myself screw myself into the ceiling with more and more escalating hyperbolic rhetoric. I was closed off and I just let myself spit into the fucking ceiling. And then I realized, you know what? I did it. I was wrong about that. And I fucking changed my position and I reevaluated. Thank God I take the weekend off so I could have that space to think about shit. You know what I mean? Because if you're always talking, you're never thinking. What's the issue with Brianna Joy Gray? She's just jealous of AOC and it's very cringe and uncomfortable to watch. That's really all it is. She has this weird antipathy to AOC and she has no firm political program that's beyond hand waving. She's a big hand waver and it's very uncomfortable and cringe. So I don't like when people are like that. You know, if your politics are, and that's why we need to end the duopoly, and that's it. That's all you say. And that's the end of your conversation. You're not really political. You're not really engaged in politics. It's like I'll give you an example of what Brianna Joy Gray's political analysis is like a guy who's really into World War II history saying that the German army shouldn't have sieged Stalingrad. They should have just taken it. That's Brianna Joy Gray's analysis of politics. AOC should not have, tried to operate within DC. She should have just passed Medicare for all. And it's like, no, that's not how the world works. You can't, they didn't choose to siege Stalingrad because they decided to siege Stalingrad. They were stopped by the Red Army at Stalingrad. And so you're not actually giving analysis. You're just hand waving toward magic. I have an outcome I want, hand wave, get the outcome I want. You're not actually analyzing the conditions that AOC is in and why she cannot accomplish the goal of passing Medicare for all. Why can't AOC pass Medicare for all? Because she is only one member of 435 House members. She has no position in leadership. The Democratic Party does not control the House. The Democratic caucus does not support Medicare for all at a significant number in order to pass Medicare for all. The President of the United States does not support Medicare for all. So standing around doing shit for the cameras, that's what she does. She doesn't do legislating. And so that is not a serious analysis. And I have a lot of criticisms about AOC and I have a lot of tactical disagreements with her. But I also fundamentally recognize that she is the avatar of our politics. Millennial socialist politics, the avatar of that is AOC. She is the most successful millennial socialist politician. Zohran Mamdani is probably the only person who's on the same level. The problem with Zohran is he's not a native-born American. If he was, he would be the number one. But he's not, so he caps out at governor or senator. That's the highest position he can currently hold because of the Constitution. So AOC is our top millennial socialist politician. So when I criticize her, I do so with that in mind, which is damaging to her reputation ultimately means damaging to our movement. Now, I also have standards. There's behavior she could do that I would be so thoroughly against, she would lose my support. But that's the reality we're operating in. So that, as much as I want her to do XYZ thing, the more I attack trust in her, the more I attack trust in socialism by marginal people that aren't there yet. And that is a fucking reality that people do not want to reckon with. They think that viciously critiquing AOC and damaging her credibility is going to lead to their politics succeeding. And that's not how it works. Let me give you an analogy. Imagine that you have somebody who is an ally You are walking the streets and there's a gang that wants to do a fucking drive-by on you. And your friend is saying, we should hide in the trap house. And you think you should hide in the bushes outside. And they say, no, I'm hiding in the trap house. That's the best strategy to counter the drive-by. And what do? Pull out a gun and shoot them in the head for disagreeing with you? Does that make you better able to defend yourself? And that's the way people strategize with AOC. Their strategy is, I'm going to do as much damage to AOC as I can, and that's going to somehow make my politics succeed. And it's like, bro, what are you doing? That story went from 0 to 100 because that's how people act online. They call her AOC CIA. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about, man?
I strongly advocated that we not elect the president who would invade them. By the way,
hates me because she tweeted that she never read Marx, and I was like, you should read Marx. It's actually not that bad and pretty entertaining. Blocked me. Actually, let me see exactly what I said. I think it was a little bit meaner than that. I was like, you've never read Marx? Let me search Marx. I'm pretty sure I'll find it. It's very funny. I'm getting off on a tangent here. Okay. I was a little bit meaner. Sorry, chat. I was a little bit meaner than I said. I said, me justifying not reading Marx. Don't at me.
Episode and people can come from my neck over this. Neither have I. But can I say that that's a little bit of a strategic choice? You know, I mean, this is a whole other thing. But I do feel like sometimes people, especially academics and elites and highly educated people, tend to talk in terms that have been defined by other people instead of just saying what they mean. And we can debate Marx, or we can take the ideas from Marx and the insights about how society works and talk about the society we live in today and how it could and should be different. And if you are having a conversation about Marx, on some level you're having a proxy war. And the debate is won or lost based on how much you can cite Marx or Hobbes or Locke or whoever else we're talking. And as someone who is not especially well-versed in any of those gentlemen and also doesn't...
What the fuck do they learn at Harvard? Because I read all of those guys in my political philosophy class at my public university. What the fuck do they even read? That's crazy.
Necessarily feel like it's important to be able to cite chapter and verse as much as it is to have taken the kind of intellectual inheritance and the ideas and be able to...
How do you know what the ideas are if you haven't read them? You're just going by vibes.
Apply them in a useful way today. I think that sometimes a lot of these conversations go nowhere because people are talking about what they think Marx is or what they claim Marx says, and nobody's sitting down with the text in front of them. And it's just people throwing terms at each other that nobody understands. Let's just say what we mean. Okay, you don't like Marx? Fine. Without using the word Marx, tell me what you don't like about this idea. You know? I'm going to move along because the queue is queuing, but then...
And I said, Marx is actually a great writer and relatively easy to read. Embarrassing post. And that was blocked. Now, I got to tell you, defending illiteracy and saying I could vibe out what the ideas are is fucking crazy. Now, it's not saying like, oh, you know, if you don't read Marx, it means you're a fucking moron. But if you're going to like say, hey, I'm a socialist, you should probably like, I don't know, spend a couple weeks learning about the ideas. There's a lot of thinkers that are very intelligent and they can help you from making mistakes that other people have thought about and argued over in the past. She unblocked you though? I don't think so. I don't think so.
Way, I'm willing to bet, and I mean this sincerely, a lot of my naysayers at least do post enough, right? Or
by the way, I don't really hate her that much. I'm so mad that I talked about her during this because it's supposed to be a ContraPoints video. I don't want any of these stupid points about Brianna Joy Gray to be polluting my ContraPoints video. God damn it. All right, we're backing it up. Editors, edit it out. I don't want it to be, it's a distraction.
Of my naysayers at least do post enough, right? Or were active during the election cycle. I don't even think she was. Like, I have been more hands-on involved in the last election cycle and have never stopped being hands-on involved in the American political process a lot more significantly than a random bread tuber who delivers like 1 8-hour video every fucking 3 months or 4 months if you're lucky and collects Patreon cash in the process. So I do find this a little strange when people are like, well, I voted. Yeah, okay, so did I. And not only that, But also, I haven't stopped because for me, politics doesn't end when, Democrats win or lose. It doesn't end for the people that we're talking about. I went back and looked, and she made a few posts about how Biden should drop out in July 2024, retweeted Harris accepting the nomination, and made one post about the anti-electoral left, then didn't mention the election from July to November 2024. She's lying here. It's very strange, dude. Also, there was a Democratic president in 2023 and in 2024 that was responsible for Cuba being starved and being blockaded that, caused tremendous harm. He also happened to be the vice president of Barack Obama, who actually did aid Cuba in a very meaningful way. So this doesn't even reach that same standard of like, oh, guess what? Democrats are far better to Cuba than Republicans. Like, Joseph Robinette Biden absolutely continued Trump's cruel policies against Cuba. But that's what I think is the real problem here. For a lot of these people, it's just basically like I tweeted, and that's all. Like, politics ends and begins at like I tweeted a couple times for Kamala Harris, and I voted for Kamala Harris. What more do you want from me? You guys actually are far worse than me. You people who go out and protest when a Democrat's in charge, but you also go out and continue protesting when a Republican's in charge. Like, you people are actually far worse than me, a person who did objectively nothing, right? Nothing at all. That's usually what it is. And it's the same energy about like Cuba as well, because like she's being so ruthless and so silly about like people that went to Cuba and delivered humanitarian aid. It's like, well, that pales in comparison to what I did, which is nothing. Yeah. Oh, you care about other people and you actually did go out there. Well, then it's performative. You actually engaged in a performative act by actually going out there and trying to do something, which pales in comparison to my strategy, which is to fucking do nothing at all. I think there is this real anger that a lot of people have towards those who are frustrated with the way that the current system is designed, that actually do want to make this change because they don't fucking want to make that change at all. They're, somewhat benefiting from the current system, or at least like, even when the current system is unbelievably violent to trans people, for example, you can like withstand the worst damages, I guess, or you think.
I think one of the things that's really important to remember about all this is like Natalie Wynn is not a campaigner. It's not like she's working to help politics in any way. She sits on her fat fucking ass drinking all day. Like, let's be honest. Like, I'm not seeing Natalie Wynn out there campaigning and doing speeches and joining groups. She sits at home eating and drinking and looking at her phone, but being too nervous to tweet. She actually is kind of similar to J.K. Rowling, to be honest with you. That's so unfair, Mike. She's ready to vote in 2 years' time.
You just like keep your head down. ContraPoints' fall from grace has been fascinating. Someone who de-radicalized young men and moved them to the left, now absolutely mauling over someone who also de-radicalizes even more young men. All downstream from the lucrative Hillary glazing interview. Lamau, amazing. She never de-radicalized anybody. That was a self-proclaimed title. She's always just another smug millennial Reddit atheist who we all had to pretend to take seriously because of video essays when you can name 10 people more knowledgeable and influential in the same area. I mean, I don't think so. I think she played a decent role. I think she played a decent role in like teaching people about transphobia, shitting on Jordan Peterson, things like that. But that's all it was. Damn, I hope Trump doesn't attempt a genocide in Cuba, because then you'd have to wait 2 years to say a single word about it. Oh my God. I don't know. I sometimes I think it's like envy masquerading as like sincere political disagreements, maybe a personal distaste also masquerading as political disagreements. But this happens all the fucking time with people that exhibit critical levels of Hassan derangement syndrome, where they just look to world changing events and they immediately assume that I will be either in favor of it or against it. And if I'm against it, then I must be really devastated by it. So it's good that it happened. And I see this with like neo-Nazis on the timeline all the time, like there was that one who was talking about how like Zoran can't commit to fast and free buses until like next year or something. And they were like, oh, this is going to really piss off Hassan. And it had like 10,000 likes. I was like, damn, dude. I don't even fucking live in New York. That's such a strange way to view the world. But I don't expect this from, I don't know, people who are supposed to be center left in their politics. Very strange.
Because she's not. She's not center left in any significant way. And ultimately, that's what it comes down to. ContraPoints is a right-wing, destiny orbiter type who's at best a centrist Democrat. And she supports Israel and she's Islamophobic. It's not really a difficult question to deal with. I mean, you don't hang out with Destiny to do a debate on transracialism. First thing you see as you open the chat is a fat N-word in all caps.
A bit, yeah. We'll see. I'm not like 100% confident about my position on it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I was, but to be fair, this is a difficult conversation to have because, and I think we can both agree on this, generally, or at least it seems to me this might be really insensitive, but most of the times I see people talking about transracialism, it's usually like a troll response to transgenderism.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think that's a lot of the reasons that people are very reluctant to have this conversation and are kind of sensitive about it, is that it's kind of used as a bludgeon against trans people a lot of the time.
For sure. And that's the extent of my familiarity with it. I remember I talked to you at one point. We didn't really flesh this out a lot, but it was more kind of just I was a little bit hesitant on some trans issues because I felt like that it was really hard to simultaneously advocate for the destruction of traditional gender roles while saying that some people felt like they were literally biologically born into some gender roles or something. Like that was more or less kind of my discomfort.
Yeah. So
there's another big F slur. Okay, sorry, chat. I can't show you anymore because there's too many slurs in the chat. Sorry. I had to close it. There's too many slurs in the chat. I apologize. I didn't expect so many slurs in the chat. I apologize for that. So let's get back let's go back into to the Iran war. It looks like US seizes warships, peace talks canceled. I think that's pretty much where we are right now with the Iran war. All in all, Natalie, Destiny Fred, Destiny Orbiter absorb the kind of like they're kind of, how is it best to explain it? Natalie is just kind of a Democrat chill Destiny, or kind of Destiny, I wouldn't say Orbiter, but Destiny aligned. And they have adopted the Hassan derangement syndrome. She has. Good video to react to, and then the video link is broken. Cool. What got him famous? It's her. It's her. Don't misgender her. That was inadvertent. You can apologize. Watch the new John Oliver on prediction markets? No. What made Destiny famous? Oh, him as in Destiny? Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought you were misgendering. Because Destiny was misgendering a lot in those videos. Destiny got famous for debating JonTron. JonTron, who is like non-white, was arguing for white supremacy. Not exactly the brightest bulb in the pack. Destiny got famous from originally he got famous for shouting slurs at people while playing StarCraft 2 semi-professionally. His grand total StarCraft winnings are like $5,000. So he was the StarCraft semi-pro that would say racial slurs and rape jokes. So that was his claim to fame.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday.
If you want to learn more about Destiny, chat, we have an amazing podcast called The Reaction Podcast. We just released our newest video, our newest spot on Spotify. Make sure you go and like, comment, and subscribe on Spotify. We have over 200 5-star ratings over on Spotify. Make sure you check it out. We did Destiny as our most recent episode. If you want to listen to the whole thing, you have to see it over on Patreon. ! Reaction. Navigate over to the Patreon, and if you join the Patreon, you will get the entire episode explaining who the fuck Destiny is and why you should give a shit. And the answer is you shouldn't, and he's an embarrassment. All right, let's talk about the Iran war and how we're all gonna die.
We have an amazing show for everybody today.
Okay, no, this isn't what I wanted. No, this is what I wanted. No, this isn't what I wanted. I wanted the newest update. Oh, okay, here we go.
US President Donald Trump says he expects to continue bombing Iran if the US cannot reach a deal to extend the ceasefire by a Wednesday evening deadline.
Well, I expect to be bombing because I think that's a better attitude to go in with, but we're ready to go. I mean, the military is raring to go.
US President Donald Trump speaking to CNBC, the vice president due to leave for Pakistan soon, where extreme uncertainty awaits. Preliminary talks have been happening for days, but Iran still has no clear indication if its negotiating team will sit down with the Americans. Let's get you to Washington and to Kevin Liptak. What do we know at this point?
Yeah, we still expect J.D. Vance, the vice president, to depart sometime relatively soon from Washington to head from Islamabad. Our understanding is that he has not left just yet, but that interview that the president is still doing right now on CNBC, quite revealing in terms of his approach and attitude to these negotiations. He's feeling very bullish in terms of a deal, but at the same time making clear that he doesn't plan to extend that ceasefire, which he says will expire tomorrow evening, and essentially says he has his finger on the trigger in terms of resuming this conflict if a deal cannot be reached. Listen to a little bit more of how he characterized the state of these talks.
What I think is that we're going to end up with a great deal. I think they have no choice. It is regime change, no matter what you want to call it, which is not something I said I was going to do, but I've done it. Indirectly, maybe, but I've done it. And I think we're in a very strong negotiating position to do what other presidents should have done during a 47-year period.
Now, the president in this interview said that he would be not rushed into a deal, essentially suggesting that he's not looking for something quick and dirty. He wants something that he can come out and proclaim as a good deal for the United States. I think all of that sort of belies the president's political positioning here. You know, he recognizes that this war is unpopular in the United States. It's a war that he said would have been finished by now. And when you talk to officials here at the White House, they make clear that the president recognizes that this war is politically damaging for him, and there, despite what he's saying here, not a lot of attitude for resuming it. And so as the vice president prepares to depart here for Pakistan, of course, the question is what exactly this deal that the president thinks he can secure looks like. What is the concession on nuclear enrichment? What happens to the nuclear stockpile of highly enriched uranium? All of these questions that were sticking points during the first round of talks led to no deal being produced there and remain sticking points now. Of course, President Trump very confident that he was able to come up with something that doesn't resemble the Obama-era deal that he withdrew from, that he continues to decry. But I think very interestingly, the president really putting a lot of stake into his own negotiating prowess, saying, you know, somewhat preposterously that he would have won the Vietnam War very quickly if he was president. So altogether, a portrait of a president quite confident in his ability to bring this war to.
God damn it. All right. What did I say? Okay. This has been the pattern. This has been the pattern for what, 4 or 5 weeks now? Promise that there's about to be an imminent peace deal. Thursday night, Friday morning. Stock market rises, dramatically. Oil prices crash. Then the weekend happens. There's no fucking deal. And then things slowly rot for the rest of the week. As it's clear by Monday, there's absolutely no chance there's going to be a peace deal. Things slowly start to get worse and worse and worse. Wednesday, there's a big drop. And then it happens again. Then there's another, oh yeah, we're about to have a peace deal. And the markets reverse again. Like, what the fuck are we saying? What are we doing here?
Quite confident in his ability to secure a deal that's good for the United States, but also one who continues to threaten a resumption of this war. At
what point do you think the markets will stop believing Trump? 1, physical shortages start to bite. 2, Iran changes their posture to start making demands, and then when those demands are not met, exercising responses. Right now, the reality we're in is the United States makes ultimatums, and then Iran makes gestures toward peace, and then Trump takes advantage of those gestures to calm the markets and launch more attacks. Once that starts to reverse, meaning people are no longer feeling like Iran can be intimidated, or Iran is no longer willing to set a peace deal, and the physical shortages are not going to be alleviated, then you're going to see a massive panic. Because people are going to want to be buying oil because they need it. So they're going to be buying the oil futures to lock it in. And everybody who is short oil futures is going to buy to try to secure themselves because they don't want to lose their entire, all their wealth because oil goes from $100 to $200 a barrel. That's a big haircut to take. So everybody's going to start piling into the long trade of oil if the physical shortages start to bite. And that will result in what we call demand destruction, because some of oil expenditure is what we would call elastic and some is inelastic. What that means is some people are spending energy in a way because it's cheap. But if the oil gets more expensive, people will start changing their behavior. They'll start reducing their energy consumption, their marginal energy consumption, because they can't afford it at the higher prices. So that will result in some amount of demand destruction. But there's some part of the oil demand that is very inelastic, meaning people are going to be using it no matter what it costs. And that will steal economic activity from other areas of the economy and result in windfall profits for oil and gas producers. So that's kind of the situation that we're kind of facing, which is like either there is an Iran deal and oil flows are returned to normal, or in which case oil will return to like $60, $70, $80 a barrel, or it will not, and there'll be a scramble to grab what remaining supplies are available, and that will result in extreme damage to the economy and windfall profits for the oil and gas and fossil fuel industry. So, I think, rationing and shortages and kind of like, release of strategic reserves and things like that are already happening, but those can only exist for a certain period of time. And, they're designed to give people as much opportunity to explore alternatives.
Talks don't produce a deal.
We are still expecting Vice President J.D. Vance to leave for Pakistan for peace talks with Iran. Right now, he is still in Washington, set to take part in White House meetings. When or if he's going to leave is still unclear. If there's no deal, a fragile ceasefire will expire tomorrow night. And yet this morning on CNBC, President Trump said the war is already won.
We've totally won the war. We have totally beat them militarily and otherwise.
And then he said this.
I want to make a good deal. I'm not going to be rushed. I have all the time in the world. I want to make not a good deal. I want to make a good.
And by the way, I have all the time in the world has to do with the stock market going up, having to do with the oil prices not being that high, right? The oil prices are not high right now. I mean, they really aren't. Like, there's certainly a lot more people are thinking there's going to be an imminent resumption of normal oil trade than people who think it's going to be stopped in the markets right now. If you thought that the Iran disruption is going to last for months, you wouldn't be buying oil at $80 a barrel or $90 a barrel. So, I mean, the markets are basically saying Trump's right. He's got all the time in the world, but yet they're not. They're saying he's about to make a peace deal tomorrow. And I feel like Donald Trump, he's stupid. Donald Trump is not looking at the markets and going, the markets are expecting me to get a deal imminently, and if I don't, it's going to crash the economy. Donald Trump is thinking, the markets are telling me to take my time because he's stupid. The markets are actually saying the opposite. The markets are saying, you don't have a lot. You're about to make a deal tomorrow. That's what the markets are saying.
Great deal.
Josh Dawsey, the war is won, and yet he wants to make a good deal. Translate.
I don't know that I can translate other than the president's truly been frustrated in recent weeks that he and the military aren't getting enough credit for how much they've done to dismantle the Iranian military and the Navy and what they've done. But this war, according to public polls, is not very popular, right? And a lot of his advisors have been pushing him to look for a way out. We have to have a way to get the Strait open. We have to have gas prices to go down significantly because, the midterms are coming up. A lot of folks are feeling the heat on that. And there's a lot of pressure you feel inside the White House when you talk to people about finding a way to get out. So the president's never going to say, this isn't going well publicly. He's going to say, look at all we're doing and look at these stats and look at this and we've totally won. But you're also seeing a lot of internal angst about,
like that right-wing echelon poll says 68% of Devs want socialism. It's very funny because they said Hassan Piker likes Hamas and hates, and thinks America deserved 9/11 and blah, blah, blah. What do you think of him? It's actually really funny.
How do they extricate themselves from this prolonged conflict that's dominating the headlines, dominating everyone's attention, causing some public erosion and support? I mean, they're looking for a way out.
We talked on the show about your terrific story over the weekend in the Wall Street Journal, and we talked about your anecdote about why and how the president got to the point where he posted something about Allah in Truth Social. But there's something else that I want to drill down on. A great anecdote in here, and I'm going to read it. This is during the capture, while these two airmen were captured behind enemy lines. Trump demanded that the military go get them immediately, but the U.S. hadn't been on the ground in Iran since the government's overthrow that led to the hostage crisis, and they needed to figure out how to get into treacherous Iranian terrain and avoid Tehran's own military. Aides kept the president out of the room as they got minute-by-minute updates because they believed his impatience wouldn't be helpful, instead updating him at meaningful moments.
Yeah, so what we're reporting there is that for all day on Saturday, the day before Easter, senior White House officials, military officials, everyone called into the Situation Room. And the president was agitated about finding these guys. And he turned to his aides and said, go get them, right? They're two troops. They're down in Iranian territory. But he's not in the Situation Room, and he's not with them. And it's not, I think that I've seen some folks on Twitter and on the left say, oh, all of these different theories. It's more, the president's an impatient guy when he wants something done immediately. When he is
the same poll as Israel at +2. Yeah, the poll is fucking garbage. It's written. It's trash. It's actually trash.
In the mood to have something his way, he wants it done immediately. And so they left him out of the room because I think they were trying to, they knew this was going to take a long, long period of time, but there were going to be fits and starts. Obviously, the planes went down at one point in the sand, and they couldn't get them, up. They, the guy crawled 7,000 feet up in the mountain. The guy who they were looking for. I mean, there were all sorts of treacherous things
they didn't want to be distracted
to do here,
by his impatience.
And they wanted him to get sort of regular updates, but not to be in the room for every single particular
It's a
thing.
very telling anecdote. Let's go back to where we are right now, which is, a holding pattern still. But just talking about what the president has said, maybe in the past day or two, as he tries to continue to push the narrative of the war is won and everything's going to be fine. These are statements that the President of the United States has made that are just not accurate. Vance would not join the second round of negotiations. Well, we'll see. Maybe they'll pull him, but that's not the plan right now. Vance was heading over to Pakistan on Monday. It's Tuesday. He didn't go. Strait of Hormuz is completely open, and Hormuz Strait situation is over.
It's funny listening to Dan and Fash reporting on this.
We all wish. Iran agreed to turn over its enriched uranium. Iran's military is gone.
Yeah, and listen, some of this is him trying to make the markets respond and respond positively.
And they have. They respond to the lie, and that's that. And they respond to the lie as if it's true because they think it means Trump is going to taco. And unironically, the markets believing a taco Trump is now created a situation where we're going to have where the risks of an absolute catastrophe are increasing. And ladies and gentlemen, if you've ever believed that an efficient market hypothesis, you no longer could believe in it after the Donald Trump administration. Remember your doom and gloom on Friday? The only reason I was doom and gloom is because the Iranian leadership was tweeting that shit. And I was like, it's going to result in exactly what we saw, which is more aggression from Israel and America against Iran and Lebanon. That's exactly what I thought would happen because that was signaling, and maybe Iran didn't know they were signaling this, that they were about to capitulate. But now Iran is not going to capitulate. So why the fuck did they communicate the idea that they were about to capitulate, which saved Trump's ass? If Iran on Friday said, we will never sign a deal until Donald Trump is dead or something, that would have caused the markets to fucking crash. Instead, they came out and said, we were happy to do a ceasefire till next Wednesday. And that caused everybody to be like, oh, okay, I guess they're about to capitulate. And so Iran made a decision that led to Donald Trump and Israel feeling like they have more space to operate because they're not being held accountable by market sentiment, because that's the only thing they care about. By the way, the Pope is saying the shit I was saying earlier. Holy fuck. As I've noted, comparing our time to when Pope Leo VIII issued Rerum Novarium. Exclusion is today's new face of social injustice. The gap between a small minority, the 1%, and the vast majority has grown dramatically. When we speak of exclusion, we face a paradox. The lack of land, food, housing, and decent work coexists with access to new technologies spreading everywhere through globalized markets. Cell phones, social media, and even AI are within the reach of millions, including the poor. Therefore, it is unavoidable duty of civil authorities and good politics to remove obstacles to integral human development, whose core principles are the universal destination of goods and solidarity. Here, I echo Pope Francis, who left the world just 1 year ago. Today, we must say no to an economy of exclusion. This economy kills. In fact, it is even clearer now than years ago that one of the main drivers of armed conflict is the seizure of oil and mining resources, disregarding international law and people's rights to self-determination. New technologies themselves seem designed and used mainly for warfare, offering no glimpse of greater opportunities for all. On the contrary, without a change, of course, and taking responsibility, and without respect for institutions and international agreements, humanity's future risks being tragically compromised. Bold new visions are urgently needed, along with an educational pact that gives young people space and trust. The city of God, city of peace, must truly be welcomed as a gift from above, one toward which we direct our longing and all of our resources. It is a promise. It is a task. Its people will beat their swords into plowshares, their spears into pruning hooks, every tear wiped away. They will share in the feast, no longer reserved for an elite, as fine foods, aged wines, and rich fare are shared among all. Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, let us walk together in wisdom and hope toward the city of God, which is the city of peace. This is pretty standard, like Latin American, left-wing Catholicism type shit. All right, chat, I'll be right back. Fuck. What was I watching?
And some of this is him trying to move the negotiations along. I think, unfortunately, some of this has angered the Iranians, right? This idea that, they've turned over their...
Listen, the Catholicism is a very contradictory religion. That's why it's so big. To be as big as the Catholic Church is, you have to be contradictory.
Enriched uranium, for instance, or agreed to do that, that is a huge sticking point, as is the Strait of Hormuz. So this is a president, some of this feels like deja vu all over again, like the days just run together, of him trying to bend the world and bend this war to the way that benefits him on social media and giving all of these interviews. He's on the phone with a reporter every other day making some of these proclamations that turn out not to be true.
President Trump says a potential deal with Iran.
U.S. President Donald.
So we're going to be bombing. We're going to be bombing. Cory Booker's angry face. He's got to be talking about the left. I've never seen this guy get angry at Israel. Jarring
Let's bring in retired four-star and U.S. Navy Admiral William H. McRaven. He spent nearly 4 decades as a Navy SEAL, commanded at every level, and oversaw the raid that killed Osama bin Laden. He's also a best-selling author with a new book out today titled Duty, Honor, Country, and Life, a Tribute to the American Spirit. There's a "Are we going to be okay?" sentence to this book that we appreciate very much, and we'll talk about in just a moment. But first, what is your takeaway about these peace talks that are ongoing with the war? It feels like you might be concerned, I won't put words in your mouth, about what the overall mission is.
Yeah, when you think about it, every president since 1979 has been trying to change the regime in Iran. And you can understand the allure of that. The fact of the matter is the Iranians have killed, tens of thousands of their own people and hundreds or thousands of our U.S. soldiers. So you understand the need to try to change the regime in Iran. But I teach a class at the University of Texas, the LBJ School, on national security decision making. And one of the things I tell the students is, if you're going to, take some actions and make some decisions, are you going to be at a better strategic point after you take these actions? So I think we're at this place right now where we say, are we in a better strategic position now than we were prior to February 28th? So prior to February 28th, the straits were open. Prior to February 28th, we had a regime in power, yes, but I think the Israelis would tell you the current regime is even a more hardline regime.
Right.
The Iranians still have 940 pounds of highly enriched uranium. So are we in a better position? Now, we have taken out their Navy. We have taken out their Air Force. We have certainly degraded their nuclear capability. But I think the real debate now is, are we better off now than we were prior to February 28th?
And I think that's the frustration of many military experts, foreign policy experts, perhaps some people even around President Trump and the American public, which is a lot of this was foreseeable, that killing a couple of guys at the top of the supreme leader and some of his top aides wasn't going to lead to regime change, which the president said we could have learned that from history, right? That you can't take out one guy and expect Jeffersonian democracy to flow from there. And also that the Straits of Hormuz would be used as a leverage point by the Iranians, at the very least mining it, and now taking this next step of shutting it down completely. So from where you're sitting, before the war started, would some of these things have been foreseeable?
Yeah, absolutely. You never, ever, ever talk about Iran without talking about the Straits of Hormuz. So I have no doubt that the military advisors to the president said exactly what you pointed out. They said, look, regime change is probably not going to occur. You can take out the supreme leader, but the apparatus that is this theocracy runs deep. The fact of the matter is they are going to try to mine the Straits of Hormuz. They will use that as leverage. So, yes, all of this, I think, was understandable. Now, again, I can't take away the allure of trying to change the dynamics and what's happening in Iran. I understand why the president felt kind of compelled to do this. But history has shown that this is very, very challenging. And again, you've got to give the U.S. military, incredible credit for the magnificent job they did. And you have to mourn the loss of the great soldiers that we.
By the way, this is why, like, this kind of military class is a dangerous threat to democracy in general, is because they're treating the use of illicit violence as a purely professional task, akin to a surgeon removing an appendix, right? And it's like imagine congratulating a surgeon for doing an unnecessary amputation well. You know what I mean? It's like, sure, you cut off the foot above the knee, but damn, you sewed up the stump perfectly. That's a grotesque, inhuman response to a crime. Wow, the way you pulled up that unnecessary amputation was incredibly professional. It's like, we performed the best unnecessary amputation of all time. It is a perverse and morally bankrupt mercenary mentality. And I think that, I think that's something that people need to start talking about, is like the culture of America's military is not the culture of a military of national defense. The United States military is basically the world's largest mercenary band. People don't join the military to defend America. They join the military for the pay and the benefits that they will receive. And they're not interested in self-sacrifice. That's why the entire goal of the U.S. military is to avoid casualties at all costs. It's not because they preserve and value human life and dignity. It's because it's a mercenary band and they're there to make money. And I don't say this because I want it to be true. I want the American military to be an organization that is focused only on the physical security of the United States. A watchman military, back only in America's physical state borders, like it was prior to World War II. No, I mean, that's not even a good example because we were fucking bigfooting all around Latin America, but you get my point. The United States military should be small, like all democracies' militaries. They should be small.
Lost in this fight.
So, Admiral, let's take a look at where we are now in this situation. Let's say talks break down the next couple of days, and President Trump wants to resume military operations. Walk us through the challenges that were presented, or first, trying to actually clear and reopen the Strait of Hormuz. And then second, if he does authorize some sort of, it would be limited, but some sort of small ground invasion, whether that's Carg Island or just seize the nuclear materials.
Well, again, what are your strategic objectives in this? So the strategic objectives at this point should be now to kind of get the Straits of Hormuz open, which is going to be challenging because the Iranians still have thousands and thousands of drones. They probably have thousands of short-range ballistic missiles. So if we put ships in there to clear the mines and they want to stop us, they'll put us in a very difficult position. Can we do it? Yes. Is it risky? Absolutely. So at this point in time, the best I think we can hope for is to broker some sort of agreement, some sort of arrangement with the Iranians that says, okay, we'll figure out how to lift the sanctions. We'll promise that we're not going to attack anymore. You've got to open the straits, and then try to do something to reduce their capability to continue to enrich the uranium to a point where they can produce a nuclear weapon. And this is what the negotiations are all about.
Yeah, you've brought up a lot of good questions that one would want to ask yourself as president and within the administration, including what are our strategic objectives in this endeavor? So what are they? Do you know? Has that been communicated in an effective way? Who in the administration do you think, the best for the president to lean on for advice and insight and context? And then what about our allies?
Well, I think this is one of the problems with the current process within the administration is normally when the president's about to make major decisions, there is an interagency process where you bring together the State Department and the Department of Defense, and you bring together all the regional experts that can talk about Iran and explain to the deputies.
Do you guys think that Donald Trump is listening to the Farsi experts, the regional experts on Iran? Do you think that he's listening to like the career American nationalists? Or is he going, what does Netanyahu want me to do? Call up Miriam Adelson, tell her she could invade Lebanon if they give me another 100 million. That is the American policy.
Principles in the National Security Council, what the risks are in doing these sort of things. But my understanding is in this administration that that circle is a lot tighter, and therefore the president is listening to, again, his close advisors, and whether that is the vice president or Marco Rubio. But I'm not sure they have the depth of understanding on some of these issues that a Richard Haas would have, who was just on, and frankly, some incredible people at the State Department and other places that really have an understanding of what's going on in Iran.
Given where we are right now, Admiral, what would be a good outcome for the United States? Forget when we started, but here we are. What looks like a good outcome?
Well, what looks like a good outcome is the Iranians opening the straits, that we find some way to reduce their capability of enriching what is already the highly enriched uranium. We don't want them to get a bomb. Again, I understand that. I agree with the president on that. Frankly, I think the strikes back in July or for Midnight Hammer were appropriate. But now I think that's probably the best we can hope for. Open the straits and some guarantees that they're not going to move towards getting a nuclear weapon.
Doesn't sound like a lot of gains from where we started back then. Let's move to the book, Admiral. Duty, Honor, Country, and Life, a tribute to the American spirit. You always, in your books, kind of lift us out of the morass of the daily politics and remind us.
Do you think anybody is buying this shit? This is so obviously slop for like some oligarch to buy 100,000 copies and put it into a fucking pulping machine. Duty, Honor, Country, and Life. That's like the kind of title you get on ChatGPT when you are using the when you're using the no, it's the one you get from Google, the Google AI mode. What a fucking dipshit.
Some of the things that make this country so great, and they're everywhere you look still in this country, despite some of the headlines we read every day. So I want to go through some of the...
I tuned into Asman for a second, and it ruined my whole day. Why, are you a bot?
Speeches that you highlight.
Are the bots going sentient?
Here, but big picture, why did you sit down to write this?
Yeah, because of what you just raised. The fact of the matter is, I think there is a lot of concern about where we are in the country, and I hope as people read this book, that they'll come away and recognize that, look, we may be going through some tough times, but there are great, great Americans out there that have this American...
Did you hear that Asmongold didn't pay his taxes? Remember how I told you that he's too lazy to fucking pay his taxes, and I bet that motherfucker did pay his taxes? Remember how I told you that? Well, he just said that he got a letter where he owed $400,000 that was going to be like mandatorily taken from him. God, did any of you file like that report that he doesn't do his taxes? I'm mad because like I just had to write a humongous check for my taxes because I'm a 1099. You know what I mean? I'm a small business person, so I have to pay for my Social Security. I have to pay for this. So it's a huge fucking check. 400,000 seems low. But he doesn't get subs, bro. I haven't done my taxes in a few years. I'm nervous. I don't have a lot of money. Most likely, you would get money back. If you don't make a lot of money, there is the earned income tax credit. There is other forms of credits. You're probably going to get your taxes back. If you make under 100K, you usually get money back, assuming you have a W-2 and there's some sort of withholding. I don't have a W-2, so most of the time I try to get 90%. Like when I pay my taxes, I file an extension. I try to ballpark what I think 90% of what I'm going to owe is going to be, and then I throw it out, and then I send that in. And then I do mine in October. And if you owe money, they put an interest rate on it. Yeah, it's fucking bullshit.
In spirit, this idea that we can get anything done, I'm
just a W-2 worker that you probably had withholding. They probably owe you money. I make $33K, I didn't get money back. Probably did your taxes wrong. Because I think, what is the standard deduction? Standard deduction. 15,750 for single filers or married filing separately. 23,625 for heads of household. So right off the bat, the first 15,750 is not taxed. And then earned income tax. 0 children, you get $650. If 1 child, you get $43.28. So a tax credit means that it pays your tax bill. I made $50K, standard deduction owed like $300. That sounds about right.
Send men and women around the moon today. We can put them on the moon. We can cure cancer. But also the book is a little bit of my thoughts on democracy.
There's no way he makes $500K a month. He probably owed multiple years of taxes, bro.
At 250 years. So, where is our democracy now, and what do we need to do to continue to keep our democracy moving in the right direction? The good news is, I hope people will be inspired and uplifted by this book. But there is a couple of cautionary notes in there about, what we need to do to continue to move America in the right direction.
One of the speeches you highlight in your book is a 2020 commencement address delivered virtually to students at MIT during the pandemic.
Right.
Let's listen to part of that message.
As I grew up and traveled the world, and as I saw more than my share of war and destruction, I came to the hard truth that Captain America isn't coming to the rescue. There is no Superman, no Batman, no Wonder Woman, no Black Widow, no Avengers, no Justice League, no Gandalf, no Harry Potter, and no Aquaman. If we are going to save the world from pandemics, war, climate change, poverty, racism, extremism, intolerance, then you, the brilliant minds of MIT, you are going to have to save the world. It will be up to you. But never, never in my life have I been so confident that the fate of the world is in good hands. Go forth and be the heroes we need you to be.
Oh, that's wonderful. And how important is that message?
The enshittification of America's elites is truly something to behold. Like, did 4-star generals give a speech on fucking Steamboat Willie, or what's the spinach guy, Popeye, before they landed on fucking the shores of Normandy? Or they like, be our Popeye, be our Steamboat Willie? Like, what the fuck are we saying? Eat your spinach, toot toot, motherfuckers. Like, what the hell is happening? It's like people are afraid to speak in like serious terms, and therefore what they say makes no impression on the world. They're really afraid to like touch people's hearts and challenge them. It's fucking cowardly ass corporate slop. Honestly, that sounded like the manager of the local Wendy's celebrating they brought back the vanilla frosty or whatever the fuck. That's what that sounded like to me. Jesus Christ.
Today, as we move toward an uncertain future, looking at this war, but also ahead of the midterms.
Yeah, well, again, this it was a commencement address for the students at MIT. But I would tell you, I think, again, when people start complaining about what's happening in Washington, and I'm talking to a large crowd, I say, well, let me tell you where the problem is. It's with us. This is a democracy. We have an opportunity to change it. We can vote the people in. We can vote the people out. And if we want to have a change, let's make that change occur. Yeah, absolutely. And we can all go out there. And again, as I told the young students, be these heroes. Be courageous. Be humble. Be men and women of integrity. Have compassion. Follow the rule of law. These are important things for our democracy. And take the time to speak up when you need to.
I'm curious watching that speech. I was thinking about where we were in that moment. In the middle of a pandemic, protests in the streets during the Black Lives Matter movement after George Floyd was murdered. It felt chaotic. It felt uncertain. We didn't know if there was what was going to happen tomorrow. So I'm curious even today, because people ask us all the time, are we going to be okay? What's going on? How do you maintain, not in some Pollyannish way, but how do you keep your optimism about America?
Because I spend time with the youth of America. As I said, I teach a graduate class at the LBJ School at the University of Texas. I travel all over the country. I travel all over the world. And when I meet these young men and women, and older men and women, I see that they continue to have the American spirit. They continue to believe in the value.
This is all pablum. He's such a politician, dude. Vacuous pablum. What values is that? Expand on that. What are those values?
That we all think are important. This idea of, again, liberty and justice and equality.
What's that mean? What's that mean? What does liberty, justice, and equality mean? What's justice? What's that mean? Expand on that.
And things that have made us a great country. And so, as bad as things may seem, we're going to be okay. We just have some work to do.
What does that mean? What the fuck does that mean? What is the work? What are the problems? I legitimately think that if you hear this type of shit and you don't react in the way that I just did, you are not really a human being. You're an NPC. And I need you to grow up. I need you to fucking grow up and like be an adult. Americans really are child. They're children. They're 12. Honestly, when I was 12, I would have been embarrassed to be talked to you like that. If he had talked to me when I was 12, I would be like, what exactly do you mean by any of that? What are the problems? What does equality mean? Does that mean equality of opportunity, equality of outcome, equality of income, wealth? What does that mean? Justice. Justice for who? Justice for the 200 children we just bombed in Iran? At 12, I would have said that. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? I have full confidence that Western civilization will survive in Tehran and Beijing, if not Europe and North America.
The unexpected social media game of Iran recently, and the Iranian ambassador to Pakistan has posted on social media to say it's a Pride and Prejudice joke. It's a truth universally acknowledged that a single country in possession of a large civilization will not negotiate under threat and force. This is a substantial Islamic and theological principle I wish the US would have perceived. So it's a kind of play on Jane Austen.
I actually still don't quite get why it's a play on Jane Austen, but I think it's quite convincing.
Because have you never read Jane Austen? It's a truth universally acknowledged. Are you fucking illiterate? It's from fucking Pride and Prejudice. What the fuck are you talking about? I think that's the first line, right? I think it's the first line. Hold on. Now, chat, I read Jane Austen because I took a woman in literature course because I am a true feminist. And I went in there, and you know what? I was the only guy. Isn't that incredible? It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife. So he said, it is a truth universally acknowledged that a country in possession of a civilization. That's what he said.
It's a legitimate point.
Yeah, it's the opening line of Pride and Prejudice. A truth.
Notice that. And I knew he wouldn't get it because he doesn't read. Because, oh my God, dude, dudes are so sexist. It's fucking insane. Sometimes, like, you know, as a man, as a guy, as somebody who considers himself a man, I realize that my definition of what it means to be a man, respect, honor, care, civic duty, responsibility, forthrightness, dauntlessness. That's not what guys think. Guys think it is deep voice, muscle, yell loud. This dumb motherfucker. It's actually insane how unbelievably sexist men are. How do you not know Pride and Prejudice? That's fucking crazy to me. Is it because it's a woman author? Like, what is it? I remember, men are so scared of femininity. It's fucking insane. They're so frightened of it. What do you think? You're going to want to suck a dick if you read Jane Austen? Is that what you're worried about? I think if that's what you're worried about, you wanted to do it before Jane Austen came around. I could read every Jane Austen novel in one sitting, and I wouldn't want to suck a dick at the end. It's honestly a shock that our species still exists.
Universally acknowledged this very.
I call this phenomenon homochondria. Homochondria. That's so exactly correct. Most men suffer from homochondria. That's why, like, guys being like, you know, hitting on each other and saying how they're going to suck each other's dicks and fuck each other. That's the most benign form of homochondria because it's an invasive thought. So they're putting voice to an invasive thought to release the intention. Because they're feeling like emotionally connected to or intimate with another man, they get an invasive thought about maybe being gay. So they have to do the whole gay, I'm gay with you performance and make it over the top to kind of like deal with that internal tension that they're feeling. I actually don't engage with that kind of behavior much myself. I occasionally do. But it's more of me like replicating behaviors that other guys do in order to fit in, as opposed to like a thing that I feel like I need to do, right? But a lot of other guys seem to like that. And I think it has to do with homochondria. How do we get to Pride and Prejudice from Iran war chat? Because the Iranian ambassador quoted Jane Austen, and I started flipping out because the guy was like, I don't know how that's Jane Austen. And I said, it's the first line in Pride and Prejudice. Can we like other authors who are women, or why is Jane Austen the red line? Because this is, the answer to that is that Iranian ambassador is citing the Western canon. An Iranian ambassador from the Islamic Republic of Iran is citing a female English literature. And then a white man in the UK doesn't recognize it. That's funny. It's funny that the Iranian ambassador to the Islamic Republic of Iran is less sexist than a British man on British TV, an anchor. That's funny.
It's been quite interesting to look at the, I think, unexpected social media game of Iran recently. And the Iranian ambassador to Pakistan has posted on social media to say, it's a Pride and Prejudice joke. It's a truth universally acknowledged that a single country in possession of a large civilization will not negotiate under threat and force. This is a substantial Islamic and theological principle I wish the US would have perceived. So it's a kind of play on Jane Austen.
I actually still don't quite get why it's a play on Jane Austen, but I think it's quite convincing. It's a legitimate point.
Yeah, it's the opening line of Pride and Prejudice, a truth universally acknowledged. That's very fair. But they've also they've had these kind of Lego memes on social media as well, where they've been getting almost like kind of, I mean, it's not official Iran accounts, but like outriders to post Lego memes mocking Donald Trump.
It's like if somebody said, to be or not to be is oftentimes what we think about here in Iran. And somebody said, oh, it's a play off Shakespeare. You're like, I don't understand why it's a play on Shakespeare.
Which I've seen some of those, and obviously everyone told me it was a Pride and Prejudice joke this morning. I didn't know, but I thought it was still quite compelling, which I guess harks back to Jane Austen was pretty good at what she did.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
There we go.
Fuck. As somebody who actually read the shit you were supposed to read, I think one of the things that I learned early on in my life is if somebody's like, why do I have to read that? I don't care. I stopped trying to convince them. Live like a small, pathetic worm. Like I'm not here to convince you that you should read Jane Austen or something, or understand the Western canon, or understand culture or art. It's fine. Watch Marvel movie 8. I spam Fox News Twitter threads with this. Do you think they'll use it in one of their segments?
Care, dude. I want healthcare. I want my healthcare provider to clap my fucking cheeks. Bust me open, dude. Bust down Tatiana. I'm always thinking about these things, and I'm always saying these things. It's not that I love my doctors. It's not that I love my primary care physician or the kind of service that I can get in a facility, whether it's clean or not. Like, those aren't the things that I care about. I care about private healthcare. I want private healthcare to fuck me all day, all night, dude. Bust me open. Oh.
Really can't imagine anything better than what I have right now. No.
And we are back. Now, in all likelihood, any chance the Democratic Party has to win control of the Senate in November goes right through the state of Maine and requires unseating Republican Senator Susan Collins. But first, Democrats have to pick a candidate in a primary that is putting the party's thorniest debates about ideological issues and generational change on full display. Maine's Democratic governor, Janet Mills, is 78 years old, or 78 years young, depending on your point of view, and is seen as is the establishment figure as she faces off against 41-year-old progressive political newcomer Graham Plattner. Now, polls show Plattner is leading by a significant double-digit margin, less than 2 months from primary day. But Mills told my colleague Sahil Kapoor she doesn't put much stock in those polls and dismissed concerns over her age.
I do what I always do, and that is going out and talking to people, one-on-one, small groups, and getting to know what's on people's minds. Got it. Small businesses.
Pablum, garbage, waste of time, waste of everyone's space. I think part of the reason why we have such a fucking shit and impoverished and stupid culture is that our journalists are also shit. You need to start making fun of journalists more for accepting pablum and platitudinous bullshit. Like, this is embarrassing. You're a fucking loser. She said nothing about anything. Oh, I just like to go around and talk to regular people. About what do you talk? What's the #1 issue people bring up? Ask a follow-up question that has some amount of journalism. But this fucking loser just wants to fund his quarter zip collection, so he has nothing to say. Nothing of value whatsoever. Fucking loser.
Because people already know who I am, pretty much. They've already voted for me at least once, or had that choice anyway. You know, I've done things. I've gotten stuff done for people in Maine.
One other voter in Maine, Jennifer, she's 61. She's a moderate from Holden. She told us she was leaning toward Mills. She doesn't love Plattner, doesn't trust him completely, but she says we've got to change, and he's younger and he's new. She worries 78 is too old. What do you say to her?
I say this.
Of course they asked the absolute most meaningless fucking question about her age. The one thing that she cannot change is her chronological age. And it's a completely nut. The reason why they asked her this is they're filling time and they want to avoid talking about anything real. You're old. How about that? So they're wasting time so we don't have to talk about something real. But it is kind of funny because she's fucking rotting in front of us. Crypt keeper ass. Retire. Don't you want to like make pottery or anything? Like go build a bench for your local park. Do anything. I mean, you don't really live in Maine, so move down to Arlington and retire. Mill around with the rest of the fucking corporate centrist class. Go overpay for the Fairfax County Country Club. Go do something. Putter around on your cabin cruiser in the Chesapeake Bay. Do something.
Plattner's the same age as J.D. Vance. He's 41. Does she like J.D. Vance? Just because of age? No, it's not all about age. Age isn't the issue. I've experienced...
It is the issue. It is an issue because the Senate works off of seniority, and you will be dead before your term's over. So anything that you do as far as seniority is lost. So Maine will immediately have to start afresh. And you're not running for anything. You don't have a plan. You don't have some big issue you're trying to solve. You're just, you know me, smile creepily. How do people like this shit? I feel like I'm losing my mind. How does anybody like this? I don't think she's going to win. But at least 20% of people are going to vote for this. Why? Why? Do they even know? I think the best thing, you know what would be cool? We should, instead of like talking to politicians, we should start talking to people's supporters. We should start randomly drawing out their supporters and have them speak. That would be nice. I would like to talk to a random Janet Mills voter and have them explain themselves. That would be fucking great.
I have know-how. I can go there on day one and get things done.
What things? What things will you get done? What things? If somebody said, I'm going to get things done, and then you say, what things are like, take a shit on your front lawn, then I would rather no things get done. Thank you very much. What things? What are you talking about? Am I crazy? Am I fucking crazy? Why do people treat this answer like it's normal? She already said get things done. She's now saying it again. Why is this treated like it's normal? What are you talking about?
Meanwhile, Plattner, who campaigned alongside Senator Elizabeth Warren on Saturday, offered his take on why he's leading in these polls and why he believes he could be the best choice to take on Senator Susan Collins, despite controversies over his past statements on sexual assault and a tattoo he covered up, which resembled a symbol associated with Nazis.
I think there's just a...
Notice how they talk about actual, like, attacks on him by name on the news? And with her, it's just... blathering bullshit about getting things done, but they give like actual pointed attacks on him. Notice that?
Exhaustion with this kind of politics now in the electorate. I think that's why the negative ads that the governor's campaign came out against us backfired spectacularly. Our support has gone up. And so I think people are sick and tired of this negative performative politics, a politics that is not remotely built around discussing policy. We are playing an entirely separate game. We are doing a campaign that is entirely different, being far more organizing focused, really focusing on going out into communities and connecting with Mainers directly.
Sahil also spoke to both candidates about a recent NBC News focus group that asked Democratic voters in Maine and also in Michigan their feelings on the party.
I want to mention to you some words that some focus groups of Democrats we talked to in Michigan and Maine used about the Democratic Party. Weak, spineless, floundering, ineffective, distracted. Does that sound about right to you?
I think I might use all of those words to describe the Democratic Party on a daily basis. So, yeah, that sounds right to me.
By the way, why they're doing this, chat, is they think that this is so funny. This is 2016 era politics. But basically, what they're trying to do is they believe that in the Democratic primary, the majority of voters are Democratic Party partisans who will be offended by you criticizing the Democratic Party. So they are trying. So Graham Plattner is like, so that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to go like, look at how he attacks the Democrats right now while Trump is ruining the country. This guy's criticizing the Democrats. Aren't you a Democrat? Aren't you offended? That's what they're trying to do. Now, they don't realize that this playbook is stale. And in fact, it's helping him. Because if they realized it was helping him, they would not ask this question.
Do they have a point?
Distracted. Wow. They probably do. I mean, I'm not happy with everything going on in Washington, not at all. But we need to level the playing field.
That's why. Oh my God. I have a new idea. I have a new idea for politicians. Every time a politician says platitudinous bullshit, they should all wear a shock collar. And every time a politician says fight for you, level the playing field, what they're doing, I hate Washington, D.C., anything like that, they just get electrocuted. Every single time they say a platitude, like get things done, shocked. Every time they waste our time with platitudinous bullshit, they get shocked. Senator, place.
I think the Democrats have to take back the Senate. And that's one good reason I'm running, because I think the control of the United States Senate does go through Maine, and I want to make sure we capture it.
And joining me now, fresh off this reporting trip to Maine, is NBC senior national political reporter Sahil Kapoor. Great work. Great to get both candidates and also you talk to voters to get a sense of what they are thinking. When they talk about the qualities they're looking for, what stands out?
Yeah, Kelly, one of the first things you learn going to Maine is what an institution Susan Collins is. She's coming up on 30 years in the Senate. It was very common for me to walk into rooms full of Democratic voters and meet at least somebody who had supported her in the past. So that's what Democrats are up against. The second thing I noticed, among Democrats at least, is this jarring disconnect between party leadership here in Washington and the sentiments on the ground. Party leadership here, including Senator Chuck Schumer, are supporting Mills. They see her as safe, tested, most likely to beat Susan Collins. On the ground, the feeling is very different. They're ready for something different. They've lost their trust in party leadership, and they want younger, more populist candidates. Take a listen to voters I spoke to.
I have issues with Graham Plattner's past, and I don't know if zebras can change their stripes, but I'm curious, and basically I'm for anyone who can defeat Susan Collins.
Janet Mills is the one who has the grit, the experience, the intellect.
Nothing, all nonsense, platitudinous bullshit, have absolutely nothing to say, meaningless.
To go up against Susan Collins and finally get her out of the Senate.
I think she's done a great job as governor, but I'm excited to have someone else with new ideas and who's really willing to fight for Maine people.
I think she's a good person. I think she's a good politician, but she's 77. I think it's time for some new blood.
Do you feel pretty confident that Graham Plattner can win a general election?
Yes, I do.
I'm very struck by spending time in Maine where they're not attacking these folks. They're deciding different qualities, but they're not saying, I really don't like this one, I really don't like.
I mean, like, and I'm going to say this to everybody who's watching this. I think if you consume this type of content, that's what we call the news, you are stupid. I think that I think it's totally normal to not want to watch this because there's literally nothing being said. This is, I've tried to explain it. How do you explain it? It is just Random noises. There is no information being transmitted whatsoever. The only information that has been transmitted in this segment is Graham Plattner insulted the Democratic Party, and Graham Plattner has 2 scandals. He made bad Reddit posts, and he had a tattoo he got covered up. That's the only information that's been transmitted here. There is absolutely no information that you would get from watching that, except for those attacks on Graham Plattner. This is a white noise machine. It's fucking worthless. And you are dumber for having watched it. So am I. The reason, and so you may ask yourself, Mike, why are you watching this if you feel this way? Because this is why the mainstream media is failing, because people are finally getting content like mine or Hassan's or whatever, where people are actually required to talk about things in an actual real way. Of course they're losing to us. Listen to this shit.
Looking for something else that stands out.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that Graham Plattner is going to have to do if he's going to become a senator is win over a lot of voters who've supported Janet Mills at one point and who have supported Susan Collins at another point. And part of the thing you just heard there from voters is they not only, some of them like Graham Plattner, but some of them don't like him but are willing to support him because they think he's more electable than Janet Mills. Again, a yawning gap between them and what party leadership here thinks.
Defining what's electable can really be troublesome for people. Now, he is also...
They love that fucking phrase. They love that fucking meaningless phrase. They love that blathering, meaningless phrase of electable. They love it because it gives you the opportunity to not talk about anything real. They love it. They love that. It's all meaningless bullshit. Was Donald Trump electable when he said grab him by the pussy? Was that appealing to Obama voters? But Trump went up there and said, made fun of a disabled person. Did that appeal to a lot of Obama voters? Is that the best way to appeal to Obama voters? Is to call Rosie O'Donnell a fat pig? Is that how they appeal to Obama voters? No one ever interrogates these ideas because they're so fucking stupid and insulting on their face. You have to be the only way anybody would ever go along with this shit is because they heard it a lot of times in the past and they don't want to look stupid for disagreeing with it. I want to give you permission to laugh in the face of every human being who brings up this fucking dumb, bullshit, meaningless, dumb fuck statement. It is stupid. And I'm sorry for using so many swears, but you have to be an asshole to be repeating this pablum.
So an Iraq war veteran, that he brings that to the conversation. I want to play part of your conversation where you talked about how important that is, and then we can talk about it a little further.
The thing that it has done for me emotionally is that it's just really sad and frustrating to watch a system and people in power essentially just do the same thing that took me to war in Iraq, but without any of the attempts to trick anybody. Like, they just understand that they can do it. Pete Hegseth wants to drop bombs on people. And so they just go drop bombs on people. They're not even trying to justify it.
I mean, you've talked about reimagining power and thinking and rethinking the way Democrats exercise it in Washington. Is there anything you think they could be doing now that they're not, given that they're not in the majority and able to corral enough votes to stop this war in particular?
Yeah, organize an anti-war movement. To get people out into the streets and effectively oppose a war, that requires organization, requires resources, and it requires people to go on TV and talk about doing it. I don't see any of that happening. I mean, this kind of goes to one of my core critiques of the Democratic Party. It has forgotten that power derives from more than just the institution. It derives from more than just the structures that they're used to working in. Power can be secondary, outside of the institutions, coming from things like movements, coming from things like organizing people. The Democratic Party has done, from what I can tell, absolutely nothing on that front.
So what do you look for next? Your last takeaways here.
Yeah, so voters are very angry about the war.
What an amazing fucking leader, by the way. People will tell you not to like that guy for some reason. Notice that he didn't talk like the average disgusting politician. Imagine, like, and people will tell you that in order to be a leftist, you can't support this guy. Compare and contrast Janet Mills, Zionist, warmonger, neocon, austerity centrist who will destroy any kind of progress we try to make both globally or here at home. And they'll tell you to hate Graham Plattner. It's fucking weird. Why are so many people so fucking weird nowadays? Why are you guys so fucking weird?
They're not just opposed to it. There's a raw anger there. They don't understand why we're there. They've noticed that prices are going up. They want the money to be spent at home. And, you know, so much of politics is timing. Graham Plattner is using this moment. He's gotten a little bit from his personal experience. He can speak about this in a way that nobody else can, and he's taking full advantage of that to talk about his own experience. And also, Janet Mills, the governor, has sharpened her attacks on the Iran war, making a constitutional case against it, a moral case against it, and an economic case against it. Finally, Kelly, Susan Collins has so far voted in favor of continuing this war, allowing Trump to prosecute it. But she said in a statement to NBC News she may turn against it after the 60-day mark. Clearly, she, too, is in touch with the sentiments on the ground.
Great window into an important race. Thank you, Sahil. We really appreciate it.
We thank you for
Absolute.
watching. By the way, okay, I want to stop you for a second there. Now that we've watched that, why does this guy have a job? Why is he a national political correspondent for NBC News? Was there any actual reporting that took place there? Was there any kind of thought or sophistication that was required? But this is one of the most prestigious journalistic programs in America. Why the fuck is he there?
Is putting the parties. And we are back. Now, in all likelihood, any chance the Democratic Party has to win control of the Senate in November goes right through the state of Maine and requires unseating Republican Senator Susan Collins. But first, Democrats have to pick a candidate in a primary that is putting the party's thorniest debates about ideological issues and generational change on full display.
Like what?
Maine's Democratic
Like what? They're on full display, but then you don't tell them what they are and who has what position. What are they and who has what position? You're supposed to explain the news. But it's concealed. Why the fuck is it concealed? What is the debate? What are the issues? Which side holds which position? You're the fucking news. But here's the thing. They don't tell you because they know that if they tell you, it'll hurt Janet Mills.
Governor Janet Mills is 78 years old, or 78 years young, depending on your point of view, and is seen as the establishment figure as she faces off against 41-year-old progressive political newcomer Graham Plattner. Now, polls show Plattner is leading by a significant double-digit margin, less than 2 months from primary day. But Mills told my colleague Sahil Kapoor she doesn't put much stock in those polls and dismissed concerns over her age.
Okay, how do you spell his name? Because I want to look into it. Fuck. Okay, there it is. Okay, thank you. She does it. Okay, I want to know more. How did he get there? Okay, he doesn't have a Wikipedia page, but he does have a LinkedIn. He didn't have to sign in to see it. Come on. Okay, he does have a website. I'm sorry, chat. This is his website. Sorry, he doesn't have anything on that page. Okay. I just trying to figure out why he got hired at NBC News. Like, what did he do before? Like, how did he get in? I want to learn more about why he's on Meet the Press. Like, how did he get his job? Like, what was his career? Like, why is he the one that gets to talk to everybody? I want to know more. Like, I know that he works for NBC, but like how? How did he get started? Like, why is he moving on up? He was at Bloomberg before. Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Anyway, hey, I guess we can't find out why somebody is hired to at the NBC's website. Okay, thank you, chat. I've reported on presidential elections, legislative battles in Congress, leadership races, consequential investigations, impeachment, and the dynamics between the White House and Capitol Hill across 4 presidencies. I also cover Formula One. I got a BA in economics from Claremont McKenna College. Gotta be honest with you, chat. College announced a $200 million gift from Robert Addison Day, early hedge funder. He's got 560,000 acres of timberland. I guess he died a couple years ago. He was a economic advisor for Arnold Schwarzenegger and George W. Bush. Cool. Oh, wow. I can't believe it. I'm not sure. I'm not really familiar with this school, to be honest with you. I don't know. I guess it's a good liberal arts college. Apparently, it's really good. I can't believe I never heard of it before. It's a blind spot. How have I not heard of Claremont or McKenna? I guess I just never did. I don't know. I don't know how I missed it. I guess I'm not aware of. Oh, I have heard of Claremont colleges. Okay, I have heard of Claremont College. I just didn't know about McKenna. I guess that's like part of it. The Claremont Independent, founded in 1996, is a magazine of conservative and libertarian writers that has frequently produced stories about the political culture of Claremont colleges that have been picked up by national conservative media outlets and drawn intense criticisms from many students. Ah, okay, yeah. I guess all you need is an undergrad, and then you're in. Yeah, anyway, sorry about that, chat. I guess it's late, huh? I just I just like, what's the point of even making that piece? Like, isn't that embarrassing? Like, wasn't that just an embarrassing piece? Like, I just watched that and I was like, it's so dumb and embarrassing and so vacuous that it's like, why even bother? Why even bother doing it? It was just, and like, that's why everybody doesn't watch the mainstream media. It's a fucking joke. All right, well, I'm going to call it there, chat. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. Don't forget to follow the Reaction Podcast. We just dropped our Destiny video. Next week, we will be doing Joe Rogan. I think we'll be on this Saturday. And then we're having Sam Cedar on for Tim Pool. So those are our next few releases, Joe Rogan and then Tim Pool. We're going to be on Joe Rogan. No, we're doing a report on Joe. We're making fun of Joe Rogan. Or analyzing Joe Rogan. So thank you guys, gals, non-binary pals. I'm currently in talks with 2 TSA endorsed congressional candidates to come onto the streams in the coming weeks. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today. We will be back tomorrow, normal time, 7 a.m. Eastern. Excuse me, 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern. Monday to Friday here on the Central Committee stream. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you all soon. Thank you for all the support. The treasure train. All right, everybody, stay safe. Solidarity forever. Socialism will win, and I'll see you soon.